The crack this morning. I'm going to hand
What's
you
that one called again?
a studio or something, is it?
That's right.
I can't even do it. Like,
No, you're spot on. It's
studio, is it? Do you know? How are you?
I'm doing good. What about you?
Doing good. Doing good. I
enjoying
was all
the
tired
calmer
yesterday and
weather.
stuff. I don't know what it was.
I was absolutely exhausted yesterday, but I didn't sleep very well.
The night before.
But you know when you sleep, but it's not a good sleep?
Yeah, it's a broken sleep.
Yeah.
Terrible.
No, it's not even that. It's just you wake up and you feel like it's hard to describe. Just
But so
heavy.
you were doing a lot of blue screen. You're doing a lot of updates even to 12 o'clock at night.
Sure. Look at.
Come on, you good. And give me compliments yesterday. How did you get on with the compliments?
I didn't do too great.
Did you not?
No, we did
Did
all
you
right.
give Caroline a compliment?
I did.
Good.
Well, sure, I compliment Caroline every morning I come in.
Let me see the face.
No, yeah, I do.
She's
Yeah, and Shannon, yeah.
She's laughing, a big hearty laugh, Caroline.
And they take the hand out of me.
Oh, Greg, you play the fiddle.
No,
you
they do,
are
they
so
do. They
well.
take the hand
Look,
out of
I'm
me.
going to ask you a question now. Did you make that even cup of coffee yourself?
Did I make
No,
this coffee?
you hesitated. No, you didn't.
No, I didn't.
Yes.
I get one cup of coffee a day.
And Caroline's going to be feeding you all information and everything today.
Well, they're the boss. She's the boss. I just sit here talking.
Did you hear that, Caroline? You're the boss.
She doesn't care. She's not in the mood.
All right, okay.
not in the mood.
Can we have a good show, right?
See you later, Leo. Have a
boy.
goodie. Safe home. All right, 9 till noon show just around the corner. But first, let's get a news update. And it's over to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. Thank you, Greg. Good morning. There are still a few hundred homes and businesses without power in Donegal as ESB crews work to repair the last of the damage caused by storms Isha and Jocelyn. There are 22 outages being dealt with, mainly concentrated in the Inishowen, Fanad, Letterkenny and Finn Valley areas. ESB networks say they're now dealing with the most difficult cases, with hopes that most of the issues will be dealt with by 8 o'clock this evening. Meanwhile, Ishka Éireann say reservoir works causing disruption in parts of Letterkenny today should be resolved at midday, while a potential supply disruption in Barnesmore is currently being investigated. The new legal deadline to restore Stormont will be February 8th after an extension was fast-tracked through the British Parliament. DUP leader Jeffrey Donaldson revealed during the debate he's been the victim of threats as negotiations continue over the return of power sharing. Well, the SDLP leader Colm Eastwood condemned those responsible.
Those people who have threatened him today couldn't lace his boots. And every single Democrat in this House or elsewhere should stand in solidarity with any of us who are being attacked like that.
A plan to demolish the old fire station in Stranraer and replace it with 8 social housing units for older people will come before Donegal County Council for Part 8 planning permission on Monday. Councillor Patrick McGowan says with 18 special social housing units for older people expected to be completed and ready to let in June this year on the Trusk Road, 2024 is said to be a very important year for housing provision. He says the development of the old fire station is something local people have been seeking for a long time, and he's happy to finally see progress.
On Monday, it will come in front of the councillors as a Part 8 planning application. Once that planning is granted, then it goes to the department, obviously, for funding. But the plan is there is for 8 units. These are small single and double bed units, and they're sort of earmarked for more older people at a time when there's a major housing shortage.
And an independent information campaign is being launched this morning on the upcoming referendums in March. Voters are to be asked their views on the definition of a family and a woman's place in the home. With more, here's Stephanie Rowan.
Voters will be asked 2 questions in these referendums. One would provide for a wider concept of what a family is defined as in the Constitution. The second would delete the reference to the role of a woman in the home and insert new wording to recognise family care. Voters will be asked if yes, they support or no, reject these changes. This morning, the country's Independent Electoral Commission will explain the issues being voted on and ask people to make sure they're registered to vote. Voting will take place on International Women's Day on March the 8th.
More on that, plus a link to the referendum handbook available on our website, highlandradio.com. Well, the forecast mild, dull and breezy today with outbreaks of rain and drizzle. Heavy at times this morning, brightening up in some parts this afternoon with rain and drizzle becoming patchier. Top temperatures today, 11 to 13 degrees Celsius in a moderate to fresh and gusty south to southwest wind. That's Highland Radio News. Back with more at 10 o'clock.
Chuirsteach hirmhaisí cheadún is fólamóide agus tamána líne, lena náiritar anúchan ústátú málartú agus áthalathar. Tá sé éasca agus is féidir dhéanamh gan stró. Tuair cuairt ar an seirbhís náisiúnta cheadún is tamána líne in neomhaigh ndls.rsa.ie. Mai go bhaidí deimhna a teastáil, teachtacht an údarás am hábhaltacht Wodi.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Yes, indeed, it is time for the talk of the Northwest, approaching 5 minutes past 9 on this Thursday, the 25th of January 2024. How are you all keeping out there? I do hope you're very well indeed, and hopefully you'll stick around with us for the next 3 hours. We'll keep you up to date with all what's happening in your local area, across the region, across the country and beyond too, and we want you involved in that conversation with your texts and your comments and your views to 086 60 25,000. WhatsApps and texts that number. Of course, lots of you are our diaspora listening in far-flung places. We want to hear from you as well, of course. 0035386 60 25,000. That's the WhatsApp. 07491 25,000 is the telephone number. And again, you use the international dialing code to access us from outside the Republic of Ireland. And of course, you can watch the show if that suits you and your lifestyle. We are on YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland. You can stick us up on your smart TV. You've got the app there, or your Fire Stick or your Google TV, and also take us mobile with you on that app, and on Facebook, Highland Hub, Highland Radio, News and Sport. Let's look at the front of some of the papers today. We'll start with the Tyrconnell Tribune. And following a meeting with Education Minister Norma Foley in the Dáil on Wednesday morning, Sinn Féin's Padraig McLaughlin said she is now more acutely aware of the serious overcrowding at Milford's National School and the traffic hazards on the current site. Deputy McLaughlin said it was a very good meeting. It was a positive meeting, and I do expect her to urgently address the crisis situation that confronts the pupils and staff, and where a new building is long overdue. I assured her that a greenfield site is available and progress has been made in its rezoning. I expect that more details will be available from the Minister's office when Scullmore Board of Management meets with local politicians on February the 9th. And I presume if you have students in that school, you'd be keen to see progress there. And if you want to share your views with us, feel free to do so on the numbers I mentioned there a short time ago. Donegal County Council say the clean-up and recovery operation following this week's heavy storms are likely to continue for the rest of the week. This is the Donegal News. The county is still recovering from the widespread damage caused after Storm Isha battered much of Donegal for several hours on Sunday night. Many homes and businesses across the county remain without power this morning. Many families have not had power since the weekend, and this is where it gets complicated. And as we've been talking about it over the course of the week, these outages with 10, 12, 20, 30, these pockets could take till after the weekend, I've been told. Hopefully not, fingers crossed, and please don't make any arrangements or plans off the back of what I'm saying. I can only pass on what I've heard, but some of them are, as we heard from the ESB themselves, complicated restorations, which leaves, and we're hearing the individual stories now, leaving people with reliance on electricity. I know we're all reliant, but some people are reliant on it for medical reasons. Newborns in the house. Some people have no water because the power's out, and there are quite a few people out there experiencing a really, really tough week. The Derry News this morning, a £5.5 million project aimed to help regenerate Derry City Centre could be in jeopardy. Work is due to begin on the multi-million-pound Inner Walled City Public Realm scheme in March. The Department for Communities project will see the removal of the Society Street car park following a public meeting involving local businesses, residents and churches with the Department for Communities, Department for Infrastructure and Derry and Strabane District Council officials. The Derry News has learned a number of objections to the scheme have since been lodged. Let's go to the Nationals now. We'll have a look at the Irish Times first. Ireland should support Ukrainians to return to their war-torn country by rebuilding infrastructure and possibly paying for travel back there, Minister for Integration, Roderick O'Gorman has said. With the Temporary Protection Directive, which allows Ukrainians to live and work in the European Union, due to expire on March 2025, the Green Party CTD said there is a fundamental question for all EU member states that must be addressed urgently. He told the Irish Times Inside Politics podcast that while the directive might be extended, I suspect it will be, with new legislation, the EU needed to decide its position on the millions of Ukrainians who will be living in member states once the current rules expire. I think the decision needs to be taken early this year in order for certainty to be provided to everyone. But the problem they are facing right across Europe is this was introduced, the Temporary Protection Directive was introduced because of Russia's invasion. It on Ukraine. Now, is that going to be resolved by this time next year? We'd hope so, but it's probably unlikely. So to say, right, you were out of your war-torn country for 3 years and now you must go back and we'll pay you to go back, is that really going to happen? I can't imagine so. That being said, I'm sure Ukraine, which has been heavily depleted of its women and children, would be very keen, because they are the lifeblood of a country, of course, very keen to see them return. But whilst the conflict is ongoing and raging as much as it ever did, I can't see how that can change drastically next year on a European-wide basis, but we shall see. I think that would be seen by Moscow as something of a victory. But anyway, we shall see how things pan out, as I said. The Irish Independent this morning. We've a lot of teen carers in this county. I know that for a fact because we've looked at the data, and this is why I thought this story an interesting one, and maybe one that you might have an opinion on. It's in the Irish Independent, I think I mentioned. Teenaged carers are significantly less likely than their classmates to get good grades in the Leaving Certificate and go on to college, new research has found. The Economic and Social Research Institute has published a study that reveals the educational toll of the educational toll of being a young carer and the effect it has on a person's life chances. Up to now, there has been limited research carried out on the experiences of carers who are still in school. The ESRI has called on the state to consider adding young carers to school completion programmes, which target young people who are at risk of leaving school early. According to the ESRI, around 1/4 of 17-year-olds and 1/5 of 20-year-olds in Ireland regularly care for another family member. This care can range from babysitting younger siblings to the more intensive care of a parent or a grandparent, and it's about supporting them and recognising them. A study has found over 4,000 young people. The study used 4,000 young people, and it tried to understand the lives of carers between the age of 17 and 20. And it's difficult to, especially if they're caring for a parent or a grandparent, because then there's sometimes an associated guilt that your need for care is in some way holding your child back. But the solution to that, of course, is to support young carers and recognise them. And hopefully the state decides to do that to the fullest extent it can. The Irish Daily Mail, I don't know what your appetite for RTE scandals is like, but it's all over the papers today. A report into RTE's ill-fated toy show, The Musical, which made losses of over €2 million, has found that there was no green light given by the RTE board for the venture. The Irish Daily Mail understands that the report, also to be published today, also found that a contract for the 1,995-seat convention centre in Dublin was signed for 54 shows before documents on the project were produced for the RTE board. So really, the way I see this, and I could be wrong, that the board is there and it's appointed there to ensure that public money is spent responsibly and that all the checks and balances are put in place. But it seems that this flight of fancy for some, or some might see it, whoever was behind it felt that they could just do it without consulting the board, who ultimately are responsible for ensuring that the right decisions are made. And also it could never really make money, because even if they fulfilled all of the shows to capacity, it would only ever break even. Well, the damning report also says that ticket sales projections were unrealistic. Politicians on the Dáil's Public Accounts Committee and the Oireachtas Media Committee said they are prepared to hold RTE executives and the board before them again to answer questions on the matter. The Irish Farmers Journal today. There was a €225 a head price gap for R3 grading cows between the best and worst paying factories in 2023, exclusive Irish Farmers Journal analysis has found. The price difference between factories for cows has increased by almost €100 a head on the 2022 analysis. For bullocks, there was up to €182 a head in the difference for O3 grading cattle between the top and bottom paying factories, and the smallest price spread showing a €71 a head gap for R3 bullocks. There was a price gap of up to €166 a head for P3 graded heifers, while young bull prices differed by up to €113 a head for R3 bulls, depending on the factory of choice. More details and so much more in that paper today. On to the red top tabloids now, and we've covered this a few times on this show. It's a ridiculous situation whereby Gardaí, unless they've had a certain level of training, can't respond to incidences under blue lights effectively and with the sirens blaring and driving at a certain speed. And the problem has been in the past that insufficient training has been available to bring these people up to that standard. So you have a police force, effectively, a Garda force that can't chase criminals. Not all of them, of course, but some within that. But that being said, too, if a Garda tends to sort of say, right, this is a situation whereby I need to drive under speed, and they haven't had the appropriate training, well, seemingly you may be in line to lose your job, because a Garda's career is on the line for driving a force vehicle to respond to an armed incident. The Star has established that the uniformed officer, it is uniformed. Do you know the funny thing is and this is what I'm struggling with newspapers when I'm reading them out now, they break the words up, so from one column to the next. So much of my reading is done online now that I'm so unused to that. So when I come across a word that's split in two on a page, it seems so old-fashioned, but also I struggle actually to comfortably read it. But the Star has established that the uniformed officer is now under disciplinary investigation by independent policing watchdog GSOC for alleged neglect of duty in relation to the incident in Dublin last year. He's being investigated for an alleged breach of discipline for driving to the so-called Priority 1 call, code for an armed incident in the city in April 2023. The officer is being investigated for rushing to the scene in the official car despite not having a specialist driving qualification known as CBD2, which allows officers to use sirens and blue lights to respond to emergencies. So, I mean, anyone with access to a car should have that training, shouldn't they? You would imagine. On to the Mirror now, and I'm just wondering, is this something that's being felt across the Northwest? I asked that question, and I know the answer is probably yes. And if it's something you want to talk about in confidence, if you prefer, you can WhatsApp or text us or call us. But apparently parents are struggling to feed their children due to a dramatic increase in the cost of baby formula. Labour's Rebecca Moynihan has written to the Competitions and Consumer Protection Commission to call for an investigation into the price increase. She also called on parents to be allowed to use grocery money-back vouchers on formula. Last month's Consumer Price Index, published by the CSO, noted the cost of baby food has climbed by 7% in a year. I mean, that's a really big jump. And it's not cheap to begin with. In her letter for the CCPC, seen by the Irish Mirror, Senator Moynihan, who is a mum to 11-month-old Margot, said many parents are struggling to feed their young children due to the dramatic increase in the price of named brand formula and the absence of generic alternatives. Ireland is a net exporter of baby formula, and we subsidise the manufacturing of baby formula through Enterprise Ireland. Now, when we were buying that, we used a multinational brand quite consistently. It's still very expensive, but not expensive as other brands, but still good. Is that something you're finding that, you're having to adjust your shop to be able to afford formula, leaving other things out? Is it something that you've noticed that affects you at all? Please let us know. 086 60 25 000. And in sport, Roy Keane, who says an awful lot about football, and he's an amazing career, of course, and he's an excellent pundit. I think everyone loves him, but we have learned that doesn't always transfer into good management, and he has opened the door to be the manager of the Republic of Ireland. Would you like to see Roy Keane in that position? Well, Roy Keane, though, according to The Sun, will never get the chance to manage Ireland following his infamous bust-up with John Waters, which may have helped convince Declan Rice to play for England, some insiders believe. The Manchester United legend has opened the door to a shock return to football management, and he insisted the national job was an option he'd be interested in. But with Lee Carsley on the brink of taking the head coach role from Stephen Kenny, sources say Keane's rocky past will always count against him in the FAI. Now, as I say, some people are great pundits and have been great players, but that doesn't always transfer to great management. What do you think? Would you like to see him given a go at it? 086 60 25 000. Okie doke, let's take a break.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra Mountaintop Letterkenny, the C-Store National Large Forecourt of the Year for 2022. The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
The life of a Charlie's Chip is never dull. Once they're selected, they're off to Charlie's, where they lose the jacket, have a nice wash, and once they get into shape and get ready, out they go to meet the public, side by side with a nice burger, some fish or chicken. Enjoy Charlie's Chips to sit in or take away daily from 12 to 8 at Pierce Road, Letterkenny. When the hunger hits, pull into Charlie's.
Boots Best for Less. Here to help you save more on the products you love. Whether you're flirting with a new look, ooh, look at you, practicing a little self-care, or blushing over new beauty. We're with you for getting the best and nothing less. Shop the products you love at prices you love even more and get the best for less at Boots. Boots, with you for life. See boots.ie for details.
Newly engaged and planning your wedding? If so, the Villa Rose and Jackson's Dual Wedding Showcase takes place on Saturday, January 27th from 1 to 4 p.m. Come along and view both stunning wedding venues and meet the dedicated wedding teams at Villa Rose and Jackson's Ballybuffet.
Donegal County Council invite the public to participate in the public information event for the Letterkenny Active Travel Project at Letterkenny Public Service Centre on Monday 29th of January from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. The project seeks to establish high quality continuous footway and cycleway routes in Letterkenny Town to promote active travel journeys. See consult.donegal for more details.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
It's 21 minutes past 9 now this Thursday morning. We're joined on the programme by Christopher. Christopher, thanks for chatting to me this morning. How are you keeping?
Not too bad, Greg, and yourself?
I'm okay. Now, you are one of the many people across the county, across the country, who whose home that you built, it turned out, was affected by defective concrete. You started building the building process back in 2011, Christopher.
The block work was done in 2011, and we didn't actually move on to 2013, but...
when did it become clear? So you're in it in 2013, plastered and all that kind of stuff. When did it become clear that there was a problem?
Probably about 2016, I'd say.
Wow,
we
just
started
3
to notice
years.
cracks, like bad cracks in corners and stuff like.
And did you go through the usual process of thinking it was bad plaster or something, or settling, or
bad settling cracks? Mostly, we thought that's what it was going down to, settling cracks, like, because there's no word of anything really at that stage, like.
But in 2019, you got it first tested, and very quickly it was clear that the entire property was very severely affected. Is that right? What did the report say?
Well, it was actually 2020. It was February in 2020. Well, it was kicking off before that, actually, in 2019, about Micah and everything else. But our house there wasn't many houses cored. Ours was, I think, one of the first about here to be cored. That was in February 2020. And by the time we went through the process then, and got the results and all back, the engineer then was telling us then that there's the results that came back from our blocks is terrible. It definitely has to be demolished.
Full demolition.
Full demolition. Our internal blocks came back at 2.7 Newton in strength. And blocks nowadays are 13 Newton.
Yeah.
And we have bison slabs, so I don't know, I'm only assuming there'll be 30 or 40 ton of bison slabs sitting on top of that.
Yeah, and that's no good at all. And you've got...
He also told us then that... He also told us as well that there's 21% mica and the cores, and he says that that's probably one of the highest that he's seen throughout the whole thing.
So presumably this was on the first the scheme, the 90-10 scheme as it was called, and under that scheme you were okayed for full demolition. Is that right?
Yeah, we were.
Okay,
but whenever the thing, you see, what happened was, whenever the house was cored and we were told that there's full demolition, we had to ask between engineers and different people, what's the next step, because there wasn't that many that was doing. No, there wasn't that many done at that stage. And we were told to do a plan up of the house, the replacement house, and ask us, go through then and the planning stage and everything. Once you get planning approved, then you can move forward, because there's no point in applying for a scheme and maybe you not get granted the planning permission then for that house.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. But because we have 4 young children, like at the minute, or 8, 6, 4 and 2, and our eldest child has a disability. So we thought that not only is it hard to get houses to rent, but one that's wheelchair accessible is nearly non-existent. So we thought if we could try maybe and get planning permission to build our house, our site's massive. Like, there's 60 metres from the front of our house to the road. Like, you easily get another house in front. Like, so we decided then that we would do the new plans, try and see if we can put the new house in front. And whenever it's finished, we'll move on to that house and demolish our own. That way then we don't have to try and seek alternative accommodation and all the rest, you know what I mean? So whenever we got the plans and all drew up and sent everything off onto the planning office, everything came back and we got passed and got planning. So I says, like, well, obviously this is a good sign now. Once we apply for the scheme now, everything should be handy enough. But it went on then for more than 2 years before we got in. They kept looking for further information from about October 2020.
And Christopher, just so I'm clear, were you looking for the replacement house that you built to be included in the scheme, or was that built and now you were looking for the old house to be rebuilt through the scheme?
No, we were looking to build a replacement house through the scheme.
Okay, perfect.
And instead of the only difference was on our inspection plan that you have to send on. It's demolition's number one on the thing's demolition, and then you work through all the stages then. Whereas we had ours that demolition was last. That was the last thing on the list, and we were just hoping to be able to do the new house in front because of the child with a disability, and then demolish afterwards, which would save a lot of hassle. Especially whenever we have the room, like.
Yeah.
But nobody else was going through the thing at the time. Like, it was only. We only thought this would be a good idea, but I don't really understand why was the planning permission even granted? Because at that time, the Donegal County Council was in charge of the 90-10 scheme, and both departments are in the offices in Lifford, like planning and the MICA scheme. So why could the planning officer not have asked the MICA scheme, is this going to be acceptable or not, and refuse us, like? Regardless of what way we move forward.
Is it possible? Is it possible, though, Christopher, that the planners may have thought that, this wasn't a replacement house? I mean, were they to know that you were looking to?
No, the planning permission was put on that this is due to demolition of a defective concrete block home.
Understood. But the scheme is very strict in terms of you have to rebuild effectively on the same footprint of the house that's being demolished. You've found no wiggle room in that at all to accommodate this plan that you have.
But they have all they have is it's written down on paper and that's it. I think under special circumstances that they should take every case into consideration. Like. That's what I think personally.
Because in your situation, obviously, you want the house to be fully accessible for your eldest child who has a disability. So you want them to take that into consideration, because you can't build the same square foot on the existing site because you're looking to replace the multi-storied house with a bungalow.
Yeah.
Have you had any indication at all that someone's working on it, or they might try and work with you, or anything at all, Christopher?
No, well, we were getting no answers and sought advice again, and we were told to contact Martin McDermott. So we went through Martin, and Martin he didn't really understand what we're actually trying to do now is the planning permission that we got granted for originally was another 2-storey house. But that's gone on since 2020. Whenever we think about everything now since, this is what we're deciding now, is a bungalow is going to suit our child better. So we're going to go for a bungalow instead. But the other side of it is our son he should be getting physiotherapy. You're supposed to, well, not supposed to get that, but you'd be supposed to get it from the HSE, and there's no HSE physio in place. We used to get it back, but it was only maybe a few times a year. We haven't seen HSE physio since July 22, and what we think now is we'll build a physiotherapy room as part of the house, so that we're able to do this ourselves, because we're not getting no help any other way. The way we want to do that then is we want to build a physiotherapy room for him out the back of the house, and build the bungalow then, so that it's kind of interconnecting, if you know what I mean.
No, I do. I understand what you're saying, yeah.
So we got in contact with Martin McDermott and he didn't really understand, so they wanted it drew out, but we drew it out ourselves because I couldn't pay out more money, to try and get an architect to do it. So we sent it off to him, and Martin came back and says that 50% of the build has to be on the same location and 50% has to be off. You're allowed 50% on, 50% off.
Right.
But our house, our bungalow is already, if you take it down and put the floor plan, it's already 50% on, 50% off, without adding like a physio suite. What we're trying to do now is trying to see if we can seek some advice where they would accept 25% on and 75% off.
Yeah, I get you.
So that, you know what I mean? So that'll take into account then for the fitness suite as well.
As far as you can determine, Christopher, would you be able to use this scheme if you built the bungalow across the existing site? Like, if you've been even told that that's doable?
I'm not actually sure on that, to be honest with you. Not if we add on the fitness suite that we want. Our house is 329 square metres. Our house is a big house, but we've downsized the bungalow now to suit our needs. But by the time we add on the fitness suite onto it, it ends up roughly the same size. It's actually probably still a bit smaller than our original home. But there's no reason why that should be unacceptable, because we should have like for like whenever we're going through the scheme.
I think though, when they talk of like for like, Christopher, they're talking like for like, and that's the there seems to be, I mean, yourself, one of the big demands or wants of the campaign was penalty-free downsizing, so people, maybe their children had moved out or what have you, they could build a smaller house on the same site and receive the maximum grant, and therefore would get closer to 100%, and the government wouldn't negotiate on that. So it would make me question, Christopher, if they would entertain what you're talking about, because it seems the terms of this scheme are so bloody rigid that it doesn't allow for the type. But listen, I don't know. You're in the midst of this. What we're really asking, is there anyone out there with any advice? That's why you've sort of spoke publicly about this, Christopher, isn't it? Is anyone that can give you some advice and guidance to try and get this across the line under the scheme? Yeah.
Well, there's nothing really out there to help us. We can't get physio from the HSE. The scheme's not working with us.
Yeah.
It's... you have to bring it publicly if that's the way it's going to be. Even with us having a bigger house, we have to suffer financially, because of the way the scheme's set out. If you live in a small house, the cap's still 420,000, which is grand for everybody else. They're going off inflation rates, and even the banks for mortgages and everything, they're all their information off the SCSI.
Yeah.
If I go on now and put in my location, put in the size of my house, the rebuild calculator will tell you that my house is 789,000 to rebuild.
Wow.
420,000 is not much good to us, if that's
No. You'd have to find €400,000 for that, because by the time you take other things out of that full 20 grand, it's not full 20 to actually build a house. Are you able at the moment, Christopher, to live in the old house?
We're able to live in it in the minute. We're lucky enough that way.
Yeah.
Because I would say it's because the house is so recent, like it's not as old as some of the other houses that are far worse than ours. Like we're able to live on it. Like.
Yeah, but when you're getting,
I wouldn't like to see it in another 5 years. You know.
That's it. And when you're getting the readings that you're getting back on the internal blocks, it would make you. I mean, you know, you have to look after your family. Christopher, listen. We'll see if anyone has any advice or if anyone can give any further input into that, and if there's anything useful, and that's not because the information isn't out there, it's just maybe the scheme won't allow. We'll certainly pass it on to you, Christopher, and I hope everything turns out okay for you and your family. I mean, as you say, it's one thing after another. No access to the physio side of things, and then these problems with the house. Okay, Christopher, thank you for your time. As I say, get in touch with us. We can put you in touch with Christopher if you believe you can help. 086 60 25,000.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till Noon Show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Enter the Virgin Media Playhouse for unbelievable value from Ireland's best broadband. Get 500 meg super fast, reliable broadband for just €35 a month for 12 months. And no activation fee when you act now. Switch in-store or at virginmedia.ie. Virgin Media, it's playtime.
T's and C's apply. See virginmedia.ie. Subject to location and availability. New customers only. 12-month contract. 500 meg broadband. €70 thereafter. Ireland's best broadband awarded by Umlaut. See virginmedia.ie/proof.
Is the appearance of your staff important to your business? It's the first point of contact for customers when entering your premises. At C&M Embroidery in Letterkenny, they have a huge range of clothing covering all areas of the workplace. It's widely known that customers warm to and trust employees that present themselves well. Have your company name embroidered or printed on all your work uniforms. Contact C&M Embroidery on 07491 28097 and get your staff looking their best.
Personal improvement deserves recognition. That's progress you can feel, and the very definition of the Audi 241 range. From the striking style and comfort of the enhanced Audi A6 to the era-defining iconic Audi A4 with Competition Edition, and the quietly efficient Audi Q4 e-tron, electrified driving with no compromise. Test drive the Audi 241 range at an Audi dealer near you today.
It's the sale of the century at Milford Tiles. Unbelievable deals now on. 20% off all tiles and bathware in store. Free standard underlay with all wooden floors. Fitters and delivery service available. That's Milford Tiles. Big January sale now on. Call 083 091 0707.
Don't miss Nathan Carter live at the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny this Sunday 28th. Doors open at 7:15 with support from David James from 8. Tickets priced €30. Available from hotel reception on Eventbrite or pay at the door. That's Nathan Carter live at the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny this Sunday.
Okay, you're welcome back to the programme. Laura McFadden's PRO of Donegal Mountain Rescue and is with me now. Good morning, Laura. How are you keeping?
Morning, Greg. Not too bad. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Donegal Mountain Rescue. Describe the organisation to us. Its size and its responsibilities, Laura.
So we are a fully voluntary organisation that spans lowlands and helps to recover people who have come into difficulty on our mountains. We're a relatively small team, but we're actually recruiting at the moment to try and make the team a little bit bigger, as we are one of the busiest teams in the country at the moment.
And it's already been a very busy 2024, hasn't it, for the team?
It has. In the first 13 days of this year alone, we had 5 call-outs. So, it's been pretty busy so far, even in the short year that it's been.
And as you mentioned, it's a team of volunteers, but they are an arm of the emergency services. Explain to us if there is an alert, how you're triggered and what have you.
So if people come into difficulty or find themselves lost or struggling on the mountains, they phone 999 or 112 and ask for us. A message is then sent out to everybody in the team to see who is available, and anybody who is available to go on scene at that time then makes their way to a rendezvous point where we are given the details of the call out, and we just take it from there then.
And presumably the more people on the team, the more likelihood there is to be, and I know you never leave anyone stuck, literally or metaphorically, but the bigger the team, when that call goes out, the more resources potentially are available.
Absolutely. You know, if the team is smaller, then the responsibility falls to a select few, and they feel then that they have to always be on call. Whereas the bigger the team, then it's essentially just spreading the load, you know, and spreading the responsibility so that, you know, there isn't only a small amount of people that have to be on call all that time.
So, I mean, obviously, for the right candidates, there'll be full training and what have you. But the basics, really, that you would like to see from people interested in becoming a volunteer are what, Laura?
So this year, with regards to our recruitment drive, we're specifically asking anybody who might have experience or qualifications on the mountains to come forward. And also particularly anybody who might have any first aid experience, so any Rec 3 or Rec 4, any EMTs or even paramedics, you know, anybody at all who feels like they might be able to give up a little bit of their time to help us out would be really beneficial to us at this moment in time.
In terms of time, how extensive is the training? Like, so I'm just trying to make sure maybe you can, you know, triage those who might suit and might not suit. So what kind of a commitment is required, say, for the training for the right candidates?
Of course, yeah. So we tend to train twice a month, one evening and then one full weekend day. So it would be 1 week evening and then normally on a Wednesday evening and then on a Sunday during the day as well. So twice a month. So it's not too full on, but anybody that would be wanting to join the team would need to make sure that they are available for that training. Because it's not all the time, we need to make sure that the training that we do have is attended by all our members.
And you know, often in an awful lot of jobs nowadays, they say must be able to work as part of a team. I think particularly in this area, teamwork and the ability to work well within a team is absolutely essential, really, because all the individual rescuers' sort of safety is all interlinked as well. Absolutely. You know, everybody has their role, but that role is only beneficial when it's done in tandem with everybody else. And it's important that no one person is singled out within the team. It's important then that no one person is put at any unnecessary risk. So we all work as a team to make sure that the team is safe when we're on the mountain so that we then can do our job to the best of our ability to help whoever we are out then to assist. So experience in hill walking and mountaineering is essential. And then there is, you know, the vital skills that we've talked about: first aid, navigation, casualty care, stretcher management, rope work, and much more. So, you know, there's an awful lot there. It is a commitment for the right candidates.
Absolutely, you know, and our training does cover all of those aspects as well. We train hard, we train very thoroughly in all those areas. It's just maybe slightly beneficial for anybody coming onto the team to maybe have a little bit of experience, a little bit of background in any of those areas first and foremost. Yeah.
All right, okay. We'll remind people just at the end of the conversation how they can get in touch. But just more generally, any patterns developing over 23 and I suppose early 24 that's triggering these call-outs, you know, amongst people up on the hills and mountains? Why are we seeing an increase? I mean, obviously they're busier maybe, but what mistakes are we explorers making?
Well, there's a couple of things that we need to be very careful of, especially at this time of year. One of them is the weather. As we've seen, especially in the past 2 weeks, the weather can become very dramatic very quickly. Obviously, with the very extreme weather that we've had warnings, but the weather can change very, very quickly. And there is a difference between heading out for a walk and then heading out for a hike. If you're heading for Muckish or Errigal or any of our peaks in the county, that is very much a hike, and it changes then how you go about that walk and how you go about heading out the door. So you must check the weather and make sure that you are then well equipped to deal with any weather
That's the
that
correct
is to
clothing,
arise later on in the day.
The correct footwear.
Exactly, yeah. And on top of that, then, absolutely. So we're finding a lot of people then are heading up these mountains in trainers, leggings, and a fleece, which is great for a walk, but for a hike, it's very, very different. You must have hiking boots, waterproof clothing, trousers, and a waterproof jacket, gloves, a hat. At this time of year, very important to have a head torch as well with you if the light does go quicker than you expect. Like I say, though, if you have checked your timings and how long your route is going to be, the weather, should be prepared for all of that as well. The other thing that is really essential is to have plenty of water and food with you, and also a fully charged mobile phone, so that hopefully it doesn't happen, but if you do find yourself in difficulty, you can contact us then and we will be able to come and get you.
Yeah, and with emergency calls, it doesn't matter what network you're on, it will connect with whatever network is available. It doesn't have to be through Vodafone or Air or something along those lines.
No.
Okay.
No, nothing at all. There is a dead zone around the Errigal car park, which is important to know that there is no phone signal around the Errigal car park, but as you head up the mountain then it does come back. And we can use that phone signal as well to locate. We use a location system called Circle. And if you are within range of signal, if we are able to get in contact you, we can actually ping your phone and get your location fairly precisely, which speeds up our recovery and our rescues.
Yeah, that was quite useful recently, I think, wasn't it, in one of the more recent rescues? Okay. Well, listen, people with an interest and want to get involved in the team, email recruitment@donegalmrt.ie. And there's more information there too on the MRT website and Facebooks and what have you. And people can contact us if they want that email address. So it's recruitment@donegalmrt.ie. And a lot of it is unglamorous work too, isn't it? I mean, you have to always make sure the equipment is clean when you've come off a climb. You know, you just don't jump in the 4x4 and head home. Like there's quite a bit to it to make sure all your ropes and safety gear is ready when it's needed, Laura.
Absolutely, Greg. Even taking an example of Sunday, we were out for a training day and it rained the entire day. So we had some equipment out that we were using and just training with. But all that needs to be packed away neatly. But then whoever is in charge of that particular vehicle that the gear has come from, they need to take that gear out and make sure it's all dry, packed away neatly and ready to go, so that when we do get a call out, we're not struggling with tangled ropes or anything like that, and that it's ready to go. So yeah, there is a little bit of work. There's a lot of preparation and minding of the gear as well, but it's all just part of it. So.
Of course it is. Okay, thanks very much, Laura McFadden, PRO of Donegal Mountain Rescue. If you're interested in getting more information about becoming a member, email recruitment@donegalmrt.ie. Good morning, says this listener. The latest story on defective concrete is heartbreaking and typical of so many. Again, I have to ask why our elected officials appear to have gone quiet on this massive issue. The people of Donegal in particular are being let down. Step up, Donegal's elected officials, and stop worrying about keeping your seat at the next election. Your inaction over the defective concrete crisis will be your legacy, they say. Just towards the end of the show yesterday, as the power was going out and on and out and on, I was opining and wondering about how long your frozen food will last in the event of a power cut. And a very helpful listener messaged in, and it reads as follows. A full freezer will hold a safe temperature for approximately 48 hours. 24 hours if it's half full and the door remains closed. Food may be safely refrozen if it still contains ice crystals or is at 40 Fahrenheit, 4 Celsius or below. However, its quality may suffer. Okay, but it's going to be safe, but it just might be as good. Hello to Kathy and Dolores and Anita. Good morning from the Cayman Islands. It's a bit chilly here. Have a great day, Anita. Well, I was very curious what you would define as chilly, so I checked the weather forecast for the Cayman Islands, and it's 27 degrees, but feels like 30. what do you want to be boiled? That sounds like glorious weather. But anyway, it depends on what you're used to, I suppose.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
I saw your Be Good baker running by again the other day, says I to old Mr. Brennan. Ah, yes, says he. I've never seen her stand still. And she's running rings around the rest of us with our Brennan's Be Good bread. Only 60 calories a slice. 60 calories, says I. That's just the whole meal, is it? No, says he, it's the whole meal, the whole grain and the white. 60 calories a slice and high in fibre, whatever way you slice it. That's why anything baked is better with Brennan's. Today's bread today.
There's 25% off all clothing at F&F until Sunday 28th of January with your Tesco Club card or app. That's 25% off cosy jumpers, leggings and knits. Perfect for a nice long walk. Or, better yet, a nice short one. F&F. Fashion at Tesco. Subject to availability. Available in the majority of larger stores.
iMotors are your main Nissan dealership in the Northwest, a trusted Japanese brand for generations. Contact iMotors to find out why people who make the move to Nissan never change. To check out our 2-for-1 offers, visit imotors.ie.
Easy Living Furniture's biggest ever winter sale has been extended for a limited time only. This is your last chance to avail of these amazing discounts. Absolutely everything reduced across sofa, dining, bedroom, mattress and accessories. It's the furniture you want at amazing winter sale prices. Winter sale extended for a limited time at Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park.
The Teagasc National Sheep Conference will take place on Thursday, 25th of January in the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny at 7 p.m. Topics include nutrition during pregnancy, simplifying farm transfers, diagnosing and managing flock health issues. All are welcome.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. Building a new home? Choose Grant's A++ rated Airona air-to-water heat pump and Uflex underfloor heating. Visit grant.ie.
Rightio, mild, dull and breezy today with outbreaks of rain and drizzle. Heavy at times though this morning, low cloud and mist too. Brightening up in a few parts this afternoon as the rain and drizzle becomes patchier. Highest temperatures of 11 to 13 degrees. Phil McFadden is in Mallinhead and joins us now. Hi Phil.
How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing all right. What's the story with you, Phil? Obviously, it's been all about the weather lately, hasn't it? And you're wondering about power outages and what have you. Tell us what you've been noticing.
Well, I've noticed on your map, the Highland map, up all along the west coast, outages all along the west coast. And then the power was out in Maville for 4 days, and the regions. And you look across the McGilligan, the lights is on. Portrush, the lights is on. Port Stewart, the lights is on. And what I've been wondering the last couple of days, is our poles, is our hardware, electrical structure up to spec? You know, because this state has a really bad, with soft touch regulation. Is the hardware? I know the ESB men and women on the ground, they're doing Trojan work, but is what they're working with a pig's ear?
I didn't look at the Northern Irish map. I didn't look at the Northern Irish map during the storm. I'm just not going to lie to you. But looking at it now, Phil, and this doesn't mean that the point you're making is not accurate, but there are power outages still in certain places up around actually just west of Portrush and south of Kilrain. But it's certainly not at the same level that we're experiencing. Is it possible though that we're yeah? Go ahead, Phil.
It's not at the same level. Like I'm originally from Derry, and people were saying, "Oh, the power was out for half an hour; it was back on again." But could you investigate how long poles are supposed to last for? How long is the infrastructure? Does our infrastructure need to be changed? Because I was on with you before, and I have a heat pump, and our water system's all tied up to electric. We're doing a bit of B&B. So, like, you hear the Green Party saying electricity security. Those last 4 days, if anybody, and we didn't have anybody staying with us, but if anybody had been staying with us, you tell tourists, bring your own generator.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Because there was no electricity. We would have had to cancel bookings, but we didn't have any bookings. But what I'm saying is, like, if the Green Party are talking about electricity security, we don't have any when a big storm hits.
Mm-hmm.
And the North seems to have a bit more electricity security.
I don't know how weather fronts work and what have you. Do you think it's anything that we're at the forefront of it? You know what I mean? If we get westerly,
I was thinking that as well. I was thinking, this is maybe I'm being a bit picky on this. But McGilligan's, you could put your hand out and touch McGilligan from a vault.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they got the same hit. It was like it was bad, but they got the north coast of fucking Derry and Antrim got the same hit as we got. Like, you know, it's like the weather maps. Sometimes they exclude the north. You know, it's a red warning in Donegal, and you just see this kind of blank piece for the 6 counties, like, you know. But they got the same blast we got. You know, so how are they? I'm not in any way running down the men and women.
No, it's a legitimate question. It's the infrastructure that they're having to repair. You're on about. We get that, yeah. Because
yes, and I know the soft touch regulation. I heard you earlier on this morning talking about NICA, you know, or the defective blocks. You know, our history on soft touch regulation. The last time I can remember them polls, and I couldn't tell you a date, but there was a big crew from South Africa. It must be the guts of 20 years, 15 years, or more. It's 20 years, and all that hardware was all fixed. So, how long do I haven't the capacity to do this, but maybe you're Highland Radio. How long are polls supposed to last for?
It won't be hard to find
and
out.
How long is
hopefully,
the infrastructure supposed?
But it's the trees taking stuff down too. You see, you know, like I said it to one of the guys from the council earlier in the week. Like, do we go out and assess you know, how close trees are to poles and poles are to trees? You know, like, I mean, the ESB are probably kicking themselves having to repair electricity which has been damaged by fallen trees. They might feel, well, what's a tree doing anywhere near our posts? Just in terms of the outages, I mean, right across the sort of east coast of the peninsula there's still some people in Mayville without power. South of you in Redcastle, another 40 without power. Just north of Muff, there's another 21 customers without power, and no such problems, as you say, further east in the Derry area. Okay, well, listen, Phil, we'll see if there's anything we can find out. I don't know this information. I suspect it's going to be down to trees coming down and not dodgy posts. But anyway, we'll see.
Well, Greg, there's not very many trees in Malin. You know, and there was the poles they were fixing in Malin had nothing to do with trees.
Okay.
And the east of Donegal, yes, but the poles that were being taken down. Like, I've only lived in Malhead for 4 years.
Yeah.
And every year, this time of year, a storm comes.
Okay.
2 or 3 poles are broke.
Right, well, listen, that's a fair point, and I accept it. I accept what you're saying, Phil. Let's look into it. Thank you very much indeed, Phil McFadden there in Malin. Back with more after the news and obituary notices.
Enhance your skills with SafeTech's part-funded training programs. At SafeTech, we provide courses including first aid, roadworks, people moving and handling, confined spaces, electrofusion and machinery training for Ireland and UK sites. Also online programs such as water hygiene, construction supervisors, safety reps and much more. If you have a group for training, SafeTech will go to you. Contact SafeTech today at safetech.ie and take the first step towards upskilling and safety compliance.
Leadership is about driving change. That's why we're pleased to introduce the first ever all-electric BMW i5. Seamlessly blending unmistakable BMW driving dynamics with instant electric performance and impressive range, while innovative technology connects to elevate every journey. Discover the joy of moving forward. Reserve your test drive at bmw.ie. Test drive subject to status and availability.
Join me, Marty Friel, this and every Friday night from 8 for Rocking Hits on Highland Radio in association with Arena 7 Letterkenny. If you're celebrating a birthday or a work night out, Arena 7 Entertainment Complex has it all. Check out arena7.ie.
Keep out the cold, cold, cold! And ring Fleming for their full range of garage doors, agri doors, insulated doors, milking parlour doors. Fleming, 91 48 234.
Don't miss the BAFTA award-winning comedian Michael McIntyre's brand new show, Magnificent, at the SSE Arena Belfast on Friday the 31st of May 2024. As always, Highland Radio make it easy for you as we look after all your needs. We will provide luxury transfers, overnight stay at the Clinton Hotel Belfast on a B&B basis, your ticket to the show, shopping time in Belfast City Centre. For more information, go to the outlet at highlandradio.com or give us a call on 074 91 25000. Michael McIntyre in Belfast.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's Donna Marie Doherty with the news at 10 o'clock. The new legal deadline will restore Stormont to be February 8th after an extension was fast-tracked through the British Parliament. DUP leader Jeffrey Donaldson revealed during the debate that he's been the victim of threats as negotiations continue over the return of power sharing. SDLP leader Colm Eastwood condemned those responsible.
Those people who have threatened him today couldn't lace his boots. And every single Democrat in this House or elsewhere should stand in solidarity with any of us who are being attacked like that.
An independent information campaign is being launched this morning on the upcoming referendums in March. Voters will be asked their views on the definition of a family and a woman's place in the home. Stephanie Roan reports.
Voters will be asked 2 questions in these referendums. One would provide for a wider concept of what a family is defined as in the Constitution. The second would delete the reference to the role of a woman in the home and insert new wording to recognise family care. Voters will be asked if yes, they support or no, reject these changes. This morning, the country's Independent Electoral Commission will explain the issues being voted on and ask people to make sure they're registered to vote. Voting will take place on International Women's Day on March the 8th.
In County Derry, a 30-year-old man has been charged by detectives investigating reports that a number of masked and armed men entered a licensed premises in Dungiven on Friday evening last. He's due in Ballymena Court later. PSNI say investigations are ongoing and they're anxious to speak to anyone who has information on the whereabouts or movement of a white Peugeot Partner van bearing the registration MK62POA. There are still several few hundred homes and businesses without power in Donegal as ESB crews work to repair the last of the damage caused by storms Isha and Jocelyn. There are 22 outages being dealt with, mainly concentrated in the Inishowen, Fanet, Letterkenny and Finn Valley areas. ESB networks say they hope most of the issues will be dealt with by 8 o'clock this evening. Meanwhile, Ishka Aaron says repairs to a burst water main may cause supply disruption to Moville and surrounding areas today, with work scheduled to take place until 4 p.m. this afternoon. A reservoir works may cause supply disruptions to areas around Letterkenny, including Woodland Castle, Shanna, Ross Park, Lochnagan, Lisnenin until midday today. Reports of a supply disruption in Barnesmore and surrounding areas are also being investigated. Marine Minister Charlie McConalogue has confirmed €12.7 million to see 15 marine infrastructure projects that will address the impacts of Brexit on Irish coastal communities being delivered by local authorities. These projects were previously put forward by councils under the Brexit Adjustment Local Authority Marine Infrastructure Scheme. Donald Kavanagh has more.
Minister McConalogue has commended local councils on the commitment to delivery of projects through the Bellamy scheme, saying by the end of 2023 the government had delivered €37.8 million in funding to support delivery of 148 capital projects right around the Irish coast. The scheme approved up to €55.3 million for 164 projects located in 13 coastal local authorities, including Donegal County Council. Projects approved in Donegal included major works in Greencastle, Burton Port and Rathmullen. Minister McConalogue says a number of projects approved under the scheme encountered delivery challenges, including consent, procurement, supply chain and weather window for works. The projects approved for funding in 2024, he says, have been selected on the basis of their capacity to be delivered this year and having regard to their ongoing relevance to addressing the impacts of Brexit on Ireland's fishing industry.
A plan to demolish the old fire station in Stranorlar and replace it with 8 social housing units for older people will come before Donegal County Council for Part 8 planning permission on Monday. Councillor Patrick McGowan says the 18 special housing social units for older people expected to be completed and ready to let in June this year. 2024 is set to be a very important one for housing provision. He says the development of the old fire station site is something that local people have been seeking for a long time, and he's happy to finally see it progress.
On Monday, it will come in front of the councillors as a Part 8 planning application. Once that planning is granted, then it goes to the department, obviously, for funding. But the plan is there is for 8 units. These are small single and double bed units, and they're sort of earmarked for more older people at a time when there's a major housing shortage.
Looking out to weather, mild, dull and breezy today with outbreaks of rain and drizzle, heavy at times this morning, brightening up in a few parts this afternoon as the rain and drizzle becomes patchier, in highest temperatures of 11 to 13 degrees and a moderate to fresh and gusty south to southwest wind. That's all for now from Highland Radio News, back again at 11 o'clock.
The obituary notices for this Thursday morning, the 25th of January. The death has taken place of Pat Lynch, Gortleck, Linsford. Pat's remains are reposing at his late residence. Removal from there at 10:15 on Saturday morning, going to Star of the Sea Church, Desertegny, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, with burial in the adjoining cemetery. House private pleas to family, neighbours and close friends today at the request of the deceased. Everyone welcome tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. House private pleas on the morning of the funeral. The death has taken place of Timothy O'Dowd, 14 Nancy's Lane, Strabane, reposing at his home. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 9:30 for Requiem Mass in Sacred Heart Church, Derry Road at 10 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family time please from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has occurred of Desmond Sweeney, 9 Cheshire Apartments, Long Lane, Letterkenny, formerly of Salhagrain and Thorndale. Reposing at his late residence today from 12 noon until 4:30, with removal to St Eunan's Cathedral for reception prayers at 5 o'clock. Reposing overnight for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, which can be viewed on the St Eunan's Cathedral webcam. Interment afterwards in the family plot in Drumahull Cemetery. Family flowers only please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Cheshire Apartments or the Donegal branch of the MS Society. And the death has taken place of Mary Gallagher, née Gallagher, Coolmine, Dublin 15, formerly of Ballymaleal, Letterkenny. Reposing at Cunningham's Funeral Home, Blanchardstown, tomorrow evening between 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Removal on Saturday morning to St Bridget's Church, Blanchardstown, arriving for funeral mass at 10, followed by cremation in Glasnevin Crematorium. Mary's funeral mass can be viewed on blanchardstownparish.ie. Family flowers only please. Donations, if desired, to Irish Guide Dogs for the Blind. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Changing habits around how we use electricity at home is more important than ever. And if the first change is a switch to a Flowgas smart meter tariff, you're off to a great start. With smart energy decisions, like avoiding peak usage hours between 5 and 7 p.m, the savings can make it really worthwhile. I'm Aideen Garahy, and I'm changing my habits. See how I get on and discover more useful tips at flowgas.ie. Flowgas. Energy for everyone. Terms and conditions apply.
And now, IMRO's 2023 Best Local or Regional News Programme, The Voice of the Northwest, the 9 till noon show with Greg Hughes.
A very good morning to you. You're very welcome back to the show. Good morning if you're after joining us. Let's get to some of your comments coming in this morning. A caller says, "Hi Greg, I went in to tax my car and just saw tape up where the people used to stand, where there was a wee kind of bench where old people and other people would fill their forms and have a wee lean against, because we could be waiting 20 minutes and they stuck up about 8 big flower pots." Don't know what's going on there. Speaking of, went to book what is it I was booking? The appointment for your first provisional licence or licence renewal. They don't take cash, it says on the website. No cash to be accepted. I thought that was part of I thought that was an arm of the state, so to speak, but the NDSL office doesn't take cash, which I was like, wow, okay. Good morning, Greg. I just turned into your show here, and it's on about planning permissions in this county. It is a joke. It is. Some would see it. Caller says that her family member, who's aged 75 and going through cancer treatment, has received a letter reviewing their medical card. How is this the case? Is this not causing undue stress to people who are suffering from illnesses when people are meant to be entitled to a medical card once they turn 70 anyway? What's going on there? Is that common practice? You do hear an awful lot about it, but someone who's 75 going through cancer and their medical card is being reviewed, not the thing that they want to be dealing with at this time. An update from Leon Cannon, Rafo Pastoral Services. We've been covering this story extensively. There's no major shifts as yet. TUSLA have received the documents they requested of them, and Liam expects more meetings shortly. The HSE have now scheduled meetings within. They've had no contact from them as of yet, but this will take time. The pressure is kept on them with yourselves and others waiting to see what they will do. Don't worry, that is a story that we're not in any way going to back away from. We'll be doing an update on that very shortly and hoping for some progress. Can you tell me what was the answer to the last mystery sound? Yeah, I can. This is Lee's problem, but I'll help out because we're part of a team here. It's if you go into a restaurant or a cafe or something and you have a slice of toast and you'll get butter and jam. Now, the butter will be a little, the little sachet of butter, but the jam might come in a little white pot with a lid in. You pull the lid off and you can scoop out the jam with your knife and spread it on. Well, the noise was pulling the lid off the mini jam pot thing. It's a joke what's happening in Northern Ireland. If me or you didn't turn up for work, we wouldn't get paid. You'd be sacked on the spot. Someone new in, please. Yeah, indeed. It is amazing what people can get away with. Hi, Greg. Yesterday, the Social Democrats put forth a motion in the Dáil for Ireland to support South Africa in its genocide case against Israel for the 26,000 deliberate killings in Gaza, more than half of them children and women, but the Irish government shamefully voted it down. This is now a very serious question of legitimacy, or more accurately, illegitimacy regarding the Irish government. This coming Saturday is International Holocaust Remembrance Day. There is the ongoing Palestinian children's Holocaust in Gaza, committed by the supposed survivors and their descendants of the Holocaust in Germany. That should not be forgotten. The government seemed to have proposed a counter motion so that they have control of the situation, suggesting that they will wait, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know the exact words, but they're going to wait for the court's findings on the case being brought by South Africa and then make a decision on it. I'm not sure if that's the prudent thing to do or not, but I can imagine that they want, whatever they decide to do, their fingerprints on it rather than that of the opposition. All right, okay. In the company where my son works, there is still no power. My son is out of work for a week. He's getting no money. Others on different contracts are still getting paid due to their contract. How is this fair? Well, I mean, firstly, for your son, it simply isn't fair. But from the business's perspective, I don't know what the situation is there. Why is there so much chlorine in the water in Rye-Rathmullen area? The water is white for the past 2 days. I'm not sure if it's weather connected, but I don't like the smell or the look of chlorine. Last one just before the break. Hi, Greg. I'm at my wit's end and my parents are based in the Lurgy-Brack area in Letterkenny. They're they're in their 70s. The water and electricity has been off since Sunday evening. no washing facilities, heat or cooking. They're very vulnerable and have health issues. I realise this is a national problem, but surely the most vulnerable customers could have been assisted first. They're promised every day that the electricity will be on at 8 p.m. Indeed, I know what you're saying. That's coming from the website. I think given the extent of the outages, that's just and I mentioned this yesterday, that's just a figure that's stuck up there. I don't know why the power is still out. I hope it is returned soon. I said it before, I don't see any outages around Letterkenny. There's one in Cullion, 28 customers affected. Maybe that's where you're talking. And the scheduled reconnection time again is 8 p.m. this evening. That's been off since 11 o'clock on the 21st. So that's the only outage I see around Letterkenny's east of Letterkenny. So maybe that's what's affecting your parents. Or maybe since you text the power's back on, I'm not really quite sure. But either way, there are still, as I said, pockets of people out there. And I wanted to recognise that right at the top of the show, that are still without power, some without water. And it's a very difficult situation. Okay, I'm going to take a break to give you the bingo numbers. It's jackpot day today. Don't forget you're supporting Vision Ireland. This is formerly the National Council for the Blind of Ireland. They do all the exact same work, but they've changed the name to be more inclusive, and it's now Vision Ireland. So in doing so, you're supporting their work and also in with a chance of winning some fantastic cash prizes. Hopefully it's you.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Thursday, the 25th of January, Jackpot Day. You're playing for the jackpot prize of €7,800 on the pink sheet. The reference number is S19. It's game number 4. The jackpot number is 56. This number can come out in any position from the next 10 numbers drawn. And now, here are your daily numbers. 27, 18, 63, 23, 75, 67, 86, 13, 10, and finally 88. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
So you're saying mental health difficulties can be smaller things?
Yeah.
Like trouble sleeping?
Yeah.
Or if I'm always stressed, like?
Yeah.
Or often anxious?
They're all part of your mental health.
Thought those were separate.
Nope. They're all connected.
Hey, how do you know all this anyway?
Sure, I've been there myself.
Anxiety, ongoing stress, low mood or trouble sleeping, they're all part of your mental health. Make the connection and find support that can help at yourmentalhealth.ie from the HSE.
Lower your food bills with own brand offers at Kelly Centra in Letterkenny. Save up to 50% on the branded options, many often from the same producer or supplier. You'll find own brand products in almost every department, so why not seek out the savings at Kelly Centra, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Nutrius XL Yo with Lamb and Nutrius Yo with Lamb Crunch are formulated to ensure a vigorous lamb and excellent milk yield. Avail of our lambing season offer: 25 kg bags, buy 10, get 1 free, and €15 off per tonne in bulk. Available at your local Homeland store. Visit nutrius.ie for full nutritional information.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the programme. So this week, the publisher of the Irish Independent and the Sunday World is seeking to lay off around 10% of staff across the organisation as part of a voluntary redundancy scheme. And they're quite upfront in it and saying that if they don't get the voluntary redundancies, they're going to have to look at compulsory redundancies. They say their revenue is a 70-30 split. At the moment, 70% comes from the print side of things, 30% from the digital side of things. And the head of the organisation effectively said during the week that, look, by 2030, it could be 2033, whenever it might be, but daily newspapers are going to be a thing of the past. Now, that in and of itself creates challenges. We're joined by Leona O'Neill, who's head of undergraduate journalism at Ulster University, to tease out the issues. Leona, good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
Great, and great to have you on the show as well. And a note too, in some of the commentary, Chief Executive Peter van der Mersch, I think his name is. He's probably not listening to correct me, but anyway, he effectively said, if you're studying journalism now, don't be studying journalism to work in a newspaper. There's going to be tons of jobs, but you're wasting your time if you think you're going to be, doing shorthand and producing articles for a printed paper on a daily basis. I mean, looking at the numbers, it's hard to dispute what he's saying. I just hadn't heard it so frankly put before.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a journalist for 25 years, and I have heard that exact same thing 25 years from when I started studying in journalism. People tell me there are no jobs in journalism. I had no trouble finding a job in journalism. I get where he's coming from with regards to the newspaper side of things, because it is very challenging. We can't deny it. It's very challenging times for newspapers, and a lot of them have had to adapt to survive, and even local newspapers have had to adapt to survive. There's a big thing in newspapers these days, in newsrooms, digital first. Everything goes online first. But a lot of them are doing very well. I mean, the Belfast Telegraph are doing well, the Irish News are doing well, because they have separated their product. They have a product that goes into print, which is completely different from the product that goes online. They're focusing on sort of breaking news that goes online that has a completely different audience than perhaps the print version of it. But I mean, whenever we're teaching journalism at Ulster University, we're not teaching folks to be newspaper journalists. We're obviously teaching them how to be journalists, and the dynamics and the mechanics of that is all the same. You have to learn how to write a story, and you have to learn how to news gather and put it all together, whether that is for print, which is more online these days. We teach online writing as well, and also for audio and visual and writing scripts and stuff for that. So it's in some ways, I mean, as I say, when I first went into journalism, I was told it was dying, it's a dying trade. And but in some ways it has, it's taken so many different roads. There are so many different opportunities and avenues that journalists can go down these days with online and the introduction of that and mobile journalism and all that type of stuff. So perhaps newspapers are on the decline, but there are other avenues within journalism that are certainly on the up, and I wouldn't be too worried about that.
Yeah, and I think that the problem for newspapers is the dwindling circulation. But coupled with that is the reluctance for the public to pay for digital journalism. Their revenues are at 30%, but they can't really get people to pay more than a couple of quid a month. It's not just here either, by the way. Now, we're a smaller market, so I think it's always going to be more challenging to try and create revenue online. That's why we're seeing so many regional papers grouped together, because you can go to an advertiser and say, look, we're across 10, 11 counties. But the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, all of those papers as well are struggling to get the public to pay for the same product in digital form to paper form. And I don't really know how they're going to square that circle.
Yeah, they've been trying to do this for years. Years ago, I set up an online news website, and I was working towards this, and I had to go out and do the jobs. And I was working 24/7 on that, and people still were like, I'm not paying for that. And people really haven't got the mindset yet that you actually have to pay for good journalism. There are journalists, or they call themselves journalists, out there on YouTube and all over social media who call themselves citizen journalists, who have no clue about law or any kind of way to collect the news and tell it with integrity, with no bias, all that type of stuff. So if people want that type of news, they can get it. It's not.
But that's the issue. So, Leona, because of the lack of constraints on that, those journalists are seen as the truth talkers. And there's often a bit of truth in what they're saying, don't get me wrong, but they can go somewhere or to a place and they can say, you won't hear this on such and such a station. This is exactly what's happening. And people go, all right, okay, now, what they're saying and calling someone a liar or a fraud or a crook, you couldn't say that in a newspaper. You couldn't say that on a radio station. So instantly, you can see why it's gathering traction.
I can see where it's gathering traction, but I suppose at the same time, they can say what they want. They're not held accountable. They're not, constrained by the rigors that we would with regards law and all the codes of conduct that we have to stand by. So we're not defaming someone. So we're not telling lies, all that type of stuff. But that's the fight. I think that's the battle that we're in now at the minute against fake news, against citizen journalism. It's bringing up the pride and the trust again in real journalism. It's getting people to pay for that real journalism so that you're getting the truth. There's a lot of people out there that say, I'll tell you the truth. I'm an independent journalist. I'm not constrained by these, different people who are connected with political parties and whatnot.
So, but
it's dangerous times.
Yeah, but if you look at the media landscape now, this might be an extreme, but this is maybe a perception. So you've got one of the big broadsheets down in the Republic that seemingly is anti-Sinn Féin, right? And that is a perception that's out there. You've got a very popular show up in the north that's seen as that is perceived as anti-nationalist, for an example. Now, both of these are state-funded. Beg your pardon. The Independent isn't, but in the north it is. And then you've got RTE, which seems to be, and as a consumer, right, seems to give opposition politicians a really hard time and government politicians a bit of an easy ride. Now, and I'm saying that as someone who is classed as a journalist, that I see that. So if it looks like, you have sort of controlled media or biased media, and that is the mainstream trusted source of media, I think that plays into more of the online stroke citizen journalism or whatever it might be, and also to a bit of a race to the bottom elsewhere. We'll tell you the exact time snow will fall in Donegal. That kind of journalism that's really just to get clicks, right? Because that's what sells ads. And I have no problem with that, but this is where it seems we're going.
It is. It's a battle. It's a constant battle. And I suppose some people are maybe working against the industry in that battle as well. It could be seen, but also a lot of perceptions, and I'm not saying your perception of certain media organizations is wrong. There's a lot of talk out there. There's a lot of noise out there that this person is against that political party. This person is for that political party. That's all noise as well. We have to get back to the news. And I suppose in the background, there's a lot of things happening in the background where certain, some political parties here and in England and everywhere around the world will not speak to the media. They say that they're the enemy of the people over in America, perhaps. Or so there's a constant building of distrust there, and then it's just added to. Sometimes people maybe add to that themselves, and that's I can't really comment on that, but they don't do themselves any favors. But we need to get back to whenever people are in my classroom, they leave everything, their politics, their beliefs, every single thing at the door, and they do good journalism. And that's what I tell them. They go out there. They're not working for a political party. They're not working for any politician or any organization or business. They are there as witnesses to tell the news, straight up facts, nothing put in there. And that's what they need to do. That's the kind of journalism that we need to get back to, so that we're not beating ourselves over the head with things while the ship is sinking a wee bit. We need to make sure that we're everybody's shoulders to the wheel, and we're doing we're doing the good journalism. We're asking the awkward questions. We're holding the government to account. We're shining the light in dark places, and we're doing our job as journalists, as opposed to perhaps maybe getting into certain camps with people and promoting them. I don't know if that's what's happening.
Do you feel safe, for instance, in as someone as a consumer in Northern Ireland, as much as someone who works in journalism, of course, and teaches journalism? How would you rate the Northern Irish press in terms of their coverage of the lack of a government in Northern Ireland?
Well, I suppose I was part of that press that was talking about the lack of government in Northern Ireland. We've had a lack of government for, I think, 5 years now, where Sinn Féin brought it down first, and now the DUP. It's a total mess. It's chaotic. I think our journalists do a really, really good job in a terribly challenging environment. It's exhausting. I can tell you that. Standing outside Stormont in sideways rain, reporting on yet another collapse of government, and the entire system's falling apart. But yet they get up and they do it every day. They challenge the government, but I will say again, there are some instances where the politicians will not work with the media. Some press offices do not speak to the media. They put out their own, they just totally disregard the media, and they put out their own promotion or publications or whatever it is that you want to call it. So it makes the job very difficult. But I think our media are absolutely fantastic at covering this. There are some very challenging things that happen and things that you can't get around, and there's a lot of secrecy and there's a lot of talks behind closed doors. But they're not behind the door. Our media are not behind the door in challenging the people who have brought the government down and speaking on behalf of the people.
And Leona, when you're talking to your students and all that you've mentioned about leaving your views at the door and this is the way journalism needs to be. Some of that in terms of where we will be in 5 or 10 years, is it like, what's the mixture there between hope and expectation, in reality? Because to me, honestly, I do feel there's a race to the bottom ongoing at the moment that I don't see how it can be turned around, because I don't really see the market for sort of what would be traditionally classed as mainstream media. If you get me, say, I just don't know who's going to buy or pay for that, right? Because it's not sexy enough for starters, perhaps. I don't know. So do you teach your students that sort of in the hope that they're the next generation to turn things around, or is it an expectation in that you believe we're going through a phase and we will get back to somewhere where we used to be?
This, I think, is a phase. I've been in the industry for long enough, 25 years, and I've seen various phases. When I started off in journalism, there was no internet and the newspapers were king, and you waited for 6 o'clock to get the Belfast Telegraph to get the news. There wasn't any of this kind of breaking news online. The internet came on, and then, oh my God, newspapers are going to die. And we went through that phase where it was very difficult. We came back up, then people adapted, and then they got their online presence. Then social media came on. Oh my God, newspapers are going to die. And then there was all that, and now there's fake news since Donald Trump came in. Fake news, oh my word, journalism's going to die. It hasn't. Journalism is never going to die. That is the crux of it. There will be phases, and there will be transitions, and there will be we're looking at AI as well now, artificial intelligence, and how that will lend itself well to journalism, not fighting against AI, fighting against the fake news, but actually adapting it into the newsrooms and hoping that might help. The future is bright in journalism. Our guys come into our university, and I don't tell them, listen, this is a dead duck. You're doing a degree that's not going to get you anywhere, Greg. I absolutely do not tell them that. And I see them go on and they do fantastic things, and they're setting the world on fire in the media industry all over the world, Alaska and America and Africa, everywhere that they go, and in Northern Ireland here, the newsrooms are full of our graduates. So the dead duck news journalism is going to be taken over by citizen journalism. No, I don't expect that.
But the point is I think where the journalism is where the advertising money goes. I think that's a reality of it. I mean, we will see a crop of amazing journalists coming out, but the question, I suppose, is what's going to pay their wages? Where are their wages going to be paid from?
So they might not be going into traditional news, print. I have ink running through my veins. I'm a news girl. I'm a newspaper girl. They might not have the same experiences as I. Newspapers are not king now, but online is. And online is where people are making the money. And I know that we say there the paywalls going up on the Belfast Telegraph, the newsletter, the Irish News, and local newspapers will probably have to adapt the same processes as well. It's changing that mindset, and that's where we're at the minute. But once we change that, and once people realise, you're getting fantastic content online, making it more engaging, making it more interactive. There's so many things there are so many opportunities there that still haven't been, even with local news, haven't been tapped into yet, that can bring them revenue and advertising. And I'm not saying it's not challenging. It's not challenging times. It is challenging times for newspapers now at the minute. But they have a product there that is at the heart of the community. If you take the Donegal News, for example, there's a product there that is at the heart of the community. Sometimes my family are from Letterkenny. If it happened, it hasn't happened unless it's in the Donegal News. My family were on the front page there a couple of weeks back, and we were all so excited about it. There's something with that generation, my my generation perhaps and an older generation that is very tied to newspapers and print and holding it actually in your hand. The next generation coming through are more tied to their phones and getting their news through different medium. It doesn't mean that the industry is dying. It means that the industry has to adapt to survive, and that's what my guys are doing. Our folks come in and they learn all about social mobile journalism and audio and broadcast and being all things to all people and reporting live on the scene with videos and all that type of stuff. So those are the type of things I didn't have to do when newspapers were king. I just went out with a notebook, but now we're changing, and that is where the jobs will be. That is where the money will come from. People always want their news, and they want news. I always find they want news from trusted sources and not from Johnny down the street who's got his mobile phone.
I agree with you. I'm not quite as optimistic as you are, okay, but that's fine, because that's what's the great thing. We can all have different opinions. You see, the word trusted source, you see, that's the thing here, right, is being a trusted source, because what I see at the moment now is I'm looking around, where's my trusted source for media? I'm seeing people, just because they have views, being labelled by the media as far right or far whatever, and I'm not on about the extreme stuff here, Leona. I'm on about just, I have concerns, don't have those concerns, that makes you a racist, a far right, what have you, and also to just spewing out a lot of propaganda. But again, I'm just a cynical old git, and I hope you're right and I'm wrong. But I just think sometimes the media can be its worst enemy in this regard, especially in a small market like ours, where there's not much advertising dollar going about. But exciting times, Leona, and I know that you're producing great people, and we look forward to working with them in the future. And thank you so very much.
Great stuff, Greg. Thank you.
Take care. Leona O'Neill there, Head of Undergraduate Journalism at Ulster University. 086 60 25,000, your views. 086 60 25,000, or call 07491 25,000. Greg. A lot of those big trees were there before the electricity poles. You can't blame the landowner. The ESB should foresee these problems when they're erecting poles and take the necessary action. Yeah, very good point. And I think really, I suppose, in terms of playing the blame game, that's not going to get us anywhere. Maybe the ESB, AIR, the councils should work together, with landowners as well, a critical part of this, and sort of maybe go around and identify where potential problems might be. I don't think any of us want our power to go out as regularly as it does because of trees falling on lines. Regarding the message on your Facebook about landlords returning deposits, I was planning to rent and put down a deposit. I did not sign a lease. I hadn't... Okay, thanks, Shannon. Just throwing content at me now. It's what I love. I did not sign a lease. I had an emergency when I was unable to take up residency in that property. The landlord refused to return my deposit. I've sought legal advice, and the landlord should give me back the deposit minus re-advertising costs, and I'm sure what to do. Let me read that again, because it was slightly disrupted. I didn't realise where it was going. Regarding the message on your Facebook about landlords returning deposit, I was planning to rent, put down a deposit. I did not sign a lease. I had an emergency and was unable to take up residency in that property. The landlord refused to return my deposit. I've sought legal advice, and the landlord should give me back the deposit minus re-advertising costs. I'm unsure what to do. Well, I mean, I don't... Like, you what's in it for the landlord? You haven't taken the property from them. You're not in it. He doesn't have a lease, or she doesn't have a lease to sort out. The right thing to do there is to say, I'm sorry with what's going on in your life, here's your deposit. And if maybe the compromise is minus re-advertising costs, so be it. But I don't think that person's doing themselves any favour taking that attitude with you. We've loads more coming in on that as well from our social media. Let us take a break, though, because our next guest is going to be joining us in just a couple of minutes.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Farmer exodus in the West. For more in your Irish Farmers Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
Find out how many farmers are leaving the sector each year. See how your factory ranks in our exclusive Beef Price League. €65 million paid in turf cutting compensation. Over 100,000 fewer straw bales this year. Rising cost of sending BVD tissue tags. New schemes to pay farmers for biodiversity. Plus, all you need to know about land tax reliefs.
All inside the Irish Farmers Journal, on sale now.
Hi, Nathan Carter here, and I'm delighted to say I've just had 2 installations from Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, and I have to say their attention to detail is second to none. With their sleek design and craftsmanship, your dream kitchen is just a visit away. So why not head over to Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms and let the magic begin.
Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, Donegal Town. More kitchens your way since 1996. Visit cherrymore.ie or call 97 25822 to book your free design appointment.
For day-to-day healthcare needs, generations have trusted the experienced staff at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. From coughs and colds to aches and pains, from vitamin supplements to first aid essentials. McGee's have what you need when you need it, with a full prescription service available daily. McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny. For healthcare help and advice you can always trust.
The big winter sale is now on at Ben Sweeney Euronics in Letterkenny and Dunlow. Get a Samsung 43-inch smart LED TV for €389. The Miele Classic Powerline vacuum cleaner for just €169. Or the new Ninja Blast portable blender for only €59. Save big in the Euronics winter sale, now on in Ben Sweeney Euronics, Port Road, Letterkenny and the shopping centre, Dunlow.
Sailor Bill returns to the Ballard Theatre on Saturday the 3rd of February, a night of music and crack with special guest Chelsea Evans. Tickets are €15, are available on the Ballard website at ballardartcentre.com or by calling to the Ballard Theatre front desk.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Now, if you heard during the week, we covered extensively and spoke to 2 of the people worst affected by a lightning strike in the Newtown Cunningham area. One lady's house destroyed. Absolutely heartbreaking to hear her talk of watching her house go up in flames, having a brief moment just to grab mementos. Effectively, her neighbour, or nearby neighbour, house severely damaged. Not quite a write-off. It's in 2 levels, and hopefully they'll be able to recover as quickly as is possible. Councillor Paul Canning rejoins us on the programme now off the back of a public meeting he's seeking to set up. Talk to me about it, Paul.
Yeah, we've decided to organise a meeting tomorrow night, the Friday the 26th, at 7:30 in Trinity Court just to bring the local community together and to get their opinions, set up a proper committee and set up a more or less a fund for a better word and give support to all of the families that have been affected. And that's basically we've done it before. We've done it so many times for the people of the community, and people want to help these people, and just the initial costs, etc., etc. So that's what we're doing. We're going to bring people together to form that committee.
Yeah, so am I correct in suggesting, Paul, that hopefully insurance companies will do their bit in terms of the major reconstruction costs or repair costs, and this is about trying to help families out in the interim or extra costs that aren't covered just to rally around and support?
Yeah. Exactly. The insurance will do the heavy lifting in a lot of the cases, but it's that initial money that's needed now. And people are out of their houses. People, like as you heard Debbie saying, but she only had the clothes on her back. So this time you have an assessor coming out. They have to do their assessment. They have to go back to headquarters, and by the time all that's done, it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months before there is any money coming down the track. So this is basically to carry them over until they get to that stage, and also just to give for people to give that moral support to those families too, and say, listen, you're not here on your own. We're here to support you and to help you.
Yep, that meeting is tomorrow night. It's January 26th, of course, 7:30 p.m. in Trinity Court. And it's just to tease ideas, maybe fundraising initiatives, whatever it might be, the establishment of GoFundMe, whatever it might be. Paul, just before I let you go, unfortunately... go ahead.
There is people already come up with ideas, and they're going to be there at the meeting. So we have already the ball in motion.
Well, let me know if there's anything I can do to support them, Paul, going forward. But one thing that's come out of my most recent conversations, very sadly, with people who have lost their properties because of fires, is access to water. We learned from Debbie, and I mean, we obviously have to explore a little bit further if it was a once-off or this is a thing, that fire crews coming down from Northern Ireland don't have access to a map showing where the water supply is. We had another situation in Letterkenny where, despite the best efforts of the fire service, they were somewhat delayed in trying to access a fire hydrant because the one there was blocked. I think this is a matter of priority when we have 2 or 3 cases in the first, in a couple of months, the council need to do an audit, do they not, of, in conjunction with the fire service, whoever's responsible, of these fire hydrants to make sure they're all clear, operational, and not only us here in Donegal, but also our colleagues that we rely on in the north have a very clear guidance as to where they are. I think Jimmy Kavanagh raised this issue himself. I'm sure you would back him on that, but this has to be a priority, Paul. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree, but the problem you have with out in rural Donegal is a lot of our water mains are 2-inch, 1-inch, and we can't put a fire hydrant on those. So there's a lot of areas out there that don't have a fire hydrant.
Yeah, but the fire service know that. What we don't, the fire service know that, Paul, and sorry to cut across you, is I'm not really talking about establishing them, but we really need to know that when the fire service goes to one, that it is actually functioning, or it's where they say it is, or if someone comes in from the north, that they have a map that shows where the nearest fire hydrant is. And I say, I'm not cutting across you or disputing with you, but in terms of establishing new ones, maybe that's a job for another day, but surely we need to know where the ones are now and that they're working.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah, they need to know exactly where they're at. But in fairness, to the fire station, etc., we have all of our fire hydrants out through the countryside, marked well enough, marked in yellow or whatever. But whenever a fire brigade goes to a fire or a house that's on fire, they go in. They have to go back to the nearest fire hydrant, which is the nearest building, and that's the problem. But they have to know where they are. They have to know where they are under blue lights and at high speed, and as in Long Lane. In Letterkenny, it has to be functioning. It can't have been tarred over or covered over or whatever is really my point. Okay. Well, listen, we're all in agreement on that, I think, Paul. Yeah, we're all in agreement on that. And unfortunately, because of the situation we had with the severe weather, we were under pressure with water as well because the electricity was off and that was the pump system was off. So it was difficult. It was just everything went against that tragedy.
But of course, as well, at the moment, and it's an awful tragedy, but at the moment again, and I'm trying to get it on the record where we're at the moment, we are talking about the loss of property. I would not like to imagine how the conversation might be, God forbid, if anyone were to perish. So I just think it's really, really important that we ensure that they have all the tools at their disposal that they need. But for now, Councillor Paul Canning, hopefully a big turnout at the Trinity Court tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. With a view to setting up a fund to help with some of the costs associated with the lightning strikes. 3 properties very badly damaged, 1 destroyed, 1 very badly damaged, another hit as well. So, and as well as you said, Paul, it's as much about the community coming together and showing solidarity as it is about planning for the future. Yeah. So thanks, Paul, for helping us to highlight that, and we'll chat to you again, I'm sure. Back with more after the break.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
It's time to visit Ireland's newest Lexus dealership, Lexus Letterkenny. With 50 years of experience, you can trust us in this new era of electrification. Experience our all-electrified range, including the stunning ES Hybrid Saloon and our award-winning range of plug-in hybrid SUVs. And view our finance offers, including the all-new LBX. Start your 2-for-1 journey with Lexus Letterkenny Port Road. Lexus. Experience amazing.
Oh, Kira, congratulations. Look at her tiny fingers. She's beautiful, just like her mammy.
Oh, thank you.
Have you got a name yet?
Well, we're thinking...
She's going to call her Brooklyn. Brooklyn, Massachusetts, Phoenix, Arizona.
Your vote is your voice, so if you don't speak up, someone else is deciding for you.
Baltimore, Kentucky, Murphy O'Neill.
Who's that?
Hospital porter. Just back from his American road trip.
Make sure you're registered to vote. Go to checktheregister.ie and be a voter, so that it's your voice that's heard. From Comisiún Tábhachtán, Ireland's Independent Electoral Commission.
Oh, Brookie Massachusetts, come to Auntie Hannah.
Backstage Bar and Grill is open for breakfast, lunch and dinner 7 days a week. If you're looking for healthy options this January, we have a great selection of delicious salads, sandwiches and more. Call Century Complex on 074 91 21976 to book your table.
Glenswilly GAA present a big 25-card drive in the clubhouse this Friday night, the 26th, starting at 7, with €1,500 in prizes. This ad is kindly sponsored by Boyle Construction.
Hamilton is coming to the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre on Monday, 21st of October 2024. This hugely popular musical is almost sold out, but here at Highland Radio, we've got you covered. We include luxury transfers, overnight stay at the 4-star City North Hotel, Dublin, your ticket to the show, and a shopping trip to Dublin the next day. To book, simply call us on 074 91 25000 or visit the outlet at highlandradio.com.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. Building a new home? Choose Grant's A++ rated Airona air-to-water heat pump and Uflex underfloor heating. Visit grant.ie.
Some mild, dull and breezy today with outbreaks of rain and drizzle, heavy at times, low cloud and mist too. Brightening up though in a few parts this afternoon as rain and drizzle becomes patchier. Highest temperatures of 11 to 13 degrees and a moderate to fresh and gusty south to southwest winds. I'm joined in studio now by Emma Gova. Good morning, Emma.
Good morning.
It's good to have you in. And you are behind the wee Donegal Mammy.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
It originally started out as a brainwave early hours of the morning.
That's the old do. Great ideas.
As they all do.
Yeah.
I was preparing to go to Dublin for a pre-recorded interview down there, and I suppose over the coming weeks it was something that I had been toying with the idea, because I had different people coming to me over different months with different problems, and I was kind of directing them to their, have you spoke to your local elected councillor? Have you spoke to your local TD? All of these sorts of things.
People thought that you would understand them, that you were relatable, that they could reach out to you.
Because to be honest, I'm quite vocal about, I think it's okay to challenge the system.
Yeah.
I think that's perfect. I think there's a way of doing it, but I think it's perfectly acceptable to challenge them. And I think it's okay to talk about your problems. Mm-hmm. I would be one of those people that would be vocal about having children with complex medical needs and special needs, and trying to navigate the systems, because there are so many different systems that are involved in that. You have your special ed, your multidisciplinary teams, you have you're not just navigating health systems, you're navigating education systems, and as a family we'd also be navigating through the immigration system, because my husband's Zimbabwean. Mm-hmm. So I would navigate through many different systems, and I think because of that people find, maybe I'd ask Emma, because
And there is, it can be a minefield to enter into what services come from where what help comes from where. It can be really, really difficult. But I think what's good in this county is that I feel, particularly over the last year or two, that normal people, in inverted commas, none of us are really I certainly couldn't qualify in that category, but what I mean is just citizens. We're finding our voices a bit more.
We are,
and we've seen some great things happening in that regard.
We've seen that with the CDNT group that came out last year, due to lack of CDNT places. Like I believe it was just 2 mums decided that they were going to put this group, and this group has done wonders for so many families out there who just needed a voice. Mm-hmm. Whereas with, for example, I had a man come to me 3 weeks ago, and he had no idea how to apply for his primary medical certificate, but he knew me because he knew a member of my family. Mm-hmm. And he said, how do I apply for it, and what if I'm not entitled to it? And I said, did you go to Citizens Advice? And he said, I did, but he would be quite a shy man, and he felt like he couldn't get the words that he needed. So I said, well, bring the form, we'll download the form together, and I'll do the form with you. And he said, well, what if they reject me? And I said, well, then we can put in an appeal.
Yeah.
And he just needed somebody there to say to him,
he was catastrophizing the process a bit as well,
before it even
wasn't he?
happened. And so
he just needed a helping hand.
Yeah, and then I had people who would have come to me and, you know, quite upset that they had maybe been labelled as right-wing because they had concerns. And they were getting an awful hard time about it. And then I also have people I know who are who are getting concerned left-wing because they are very pro-immigration. Some people are not. And don't get me wrong, there are extremes out there. There's no point in saying there isn't. But then there are just ordinary, everyday people who need their concerns answered.
The thing, too, though, the way politics work, and you can see various parties or individuals, you can see their positions shifting and aligning as we head towards local.
To navigate.
It is, for sure. But the thing about it is though, what that indicates is there's elections are often, or referenda, or whatever it might be, are often fought on very emotive issues. So it's going to be immigration probably for June. What are you going to do about housing in this area? Now, that's fine, don't get me wrong. But then a lot of the stuff that affects people in everyday life, health, right? I'm not saying not intertwined, but health, getting a home care package, getting supports for your children, getting equipment that you might need for a disabled family member.
They get sidelined.
They get sidelined
because they're not the sexy issue. They're not populist.
And they don't
at that time.
They don't win votes.
They don't.
So we end up talking about the big ones, right?
Yes.
You know, it's like we talk about this country, like we talk about important stuff, don't get me wrong, but no one wants to talk about the 11,000 children that are calling Lifeline a year. No one wants to talk about the amount of sexual abuse towards towards children. When I say nobody, sorry, that's it. But my point is
it gets lost. In the populist issues of the time.
Exactly.
So, for example, like when I put this live this week, some people were messaging me and they asked me to ask, you know, will you ask about the housing crisis? And, you know, I spoke to a woman this week, then I contacted her and I said, well, what is it you want me to ask? And she said, because the way she had worded it, she said, can you ask why the Irish are being left on the streets? And you have to be very careful the way you word things too, don't get me wrong, but I think that's a legitimate concern at the same time. So what I did was, rather than just brand that woman as you are this, I contacted the woman and said, what do you mean? What's the question you'd like me to ask? And she said, well, for example, she is not anti-immigration. What she means is, if we have 13,000 people who are now come in through IPAS, right, and we already have a housing crisis, what's going to happen to her children? I spoke to another woman yesterday. She was telling me she's paid 60,000 euros in the last number of years that she's been renting with her landlord, and her landlord has sold the house out from underneath her. She was originally given 30 days to move out, until she challenged that. She wasn't sure she could challenge it because she had no written lease, but then, you know, she was assured you can challenge it. She's now been given to me. This is a woman with children and she still can't find a home to go to, and this is on her mind. Listen,
speaking to a lady earlier on from Inishowen, couldn't be the furthest from racist or anti-immigration, but she is in a house that is falling down. There are no properties available because the government decided to house refugees in that area. Now, there's lots of areas of the country where refugees haven't been housed. So that person, to even articulate the very real situation, it could come across to some but it's clearly not. It's just that this is a policy that has taken any housing capacity out of it, in the knowledge that there are lots of people that need that housing capacity.
Yes.
Who already feel the victims of the state.
Now,
I
volunteer with refugees once a week. I'm absolutely the furthest from a racist person. I'm married to a black Zimbabwean. I am not racist in any way, shape or form. I have 4 beautiful biracial children. But I think it's very unfair, and I also think it's a very dangerous game to brandish the words right-wing. Don't get me wrong, there are right-wing agenda out there.
I don't use those words. I don't think they're helpful in any discourse at all. They're not helpful, and I think they are too quickly bandied about in society. I think it's okay to disagree. Don't get me wrong, I think there are agitators out there, but like people who have come to me and said, will you ask this question, we feel that they can't ask it because
if they do ask it, they're branded as you're this or that or the on.
Okay, so I mean that's framed up really what you're planning to do in the coming elections. You're going to have you're trying to sit down with those running in the local, national, and Europeans, ask them their thoughts on some of the issues that we've been discussing here, and are you inviting people out there to, you know, put those views to you through the wee Donegal Mammy?
Yeah, so we have
platform?
set up a Google link where you can send your question into the wee Donegal Mammy email. All the interviews will be recorded via video, and also they'll be uploaded to Spotify. But you know, there are so many questions out there. Like I had a mother talking to me this week whose child is waiting 5 years to see a consultant in the Crumlin, and she's no further forward where she's going to be on the list.
They feel completely abandoned.
They feel abandoned, and then she feels like we had just said a minute ago, she couldn't care. I don't mean to be horrible, but she couldn't care less about the disagreements about immigration at the moment. She's concerned about her child. We talk about parents who are waiting on CDNT and primary assessments, or those who, like, for example, I had one child referred to CDNT. She was turned down for CDNT because she didn't meet the criteria. And when they explained it indefinitely, they said she doesn't meet the criteria for CDNT because she's not diagnosed autistic. Then I got a letter from my second child to say she doesn't meet the criteria for CDNT because she is diagnosed autistic. Yeah. And these parents are going...
under the one roof.
Under the one. Where do we go from here?
Well, Emma, we're just almost out of time, but the obvious question for me is, and I mean, obviously, clearly you're a very busy person, why not contest the elections yourself?
Because I'm a very busy person, and I don't think it would be fair to the people of Donegal.
Yeah.
I think
so you see your role as sort of being a conduit feeding into this process, at least in the next couple of months leading into the elections.
Couple of months, but I think it would be a disservice to the people of Donegal. Firstly, I don't believe I would get elected because I'm too much of a mouthpiece myself. But secondly, I don't think that I do what I can when I can.
Yeah, I get
And
you.
I don't think it would be fair. I think I would be doing that just to put myself out there, and that would be the wrong thing for the people of Donegal.
Even in my suggestion of it, I hope you see it as a compliment and not sort of as a why don't you do it yourself. I get exactly where you're coming from, Emma. Listen, Emma Gova, how do people find Wee Donegal Mammy?
So we're on Facebook, the Wee Donegal Mammy. Then we're also on Spotify, the Wee Donegal Mammy. We have a YouTube channel. We are on Twitter. It's all under the guise of the Wee Donegal Mammy. And if you want to send any questions in, you absolutely can. And around the table talks with the Wee Donegal Mammy is the interviews, where people will come to my house, people who are going to be interviewed. We're doing Jack Murray next week. We're also going to be speaking with Paddy Diver, Mike Action campaigner. We'll have We Care Packages, Kieran from We Care Packages, and we'll have Jennifer Taylor in, who is a beauty pageant director, talking about body positivity in February. They will come to my house. They'll sit around my kitchen table, have a cup of tea, because most things can be sorted out over a wee cup of tea, most things. And then the interviews will be put on air after they're done.
All right, good stuff. Well, listen, the best of luck with everything. I really do appreciate you calling in to us.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Okay, and that was the Wee Donegal Mammy. It is 11 o'clock. Okay, as I mentioned, it is 11 o'clock, just turned. Time for a news update. Over to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. A meeting's been organised in Trinity Court tomorrow evening in a bid to support 3 families who had their homes struck by lightning in Newton Cunningham earlier this week. Councillor Paul Canning says as volunteers and ideas are greatly needed, telling how one family was essentially left with only the clothes on their backs. The meeting takes place at 7:30 tomorrow. The Independent Electoral Commission has officially launched its information campaign on the upcoming referendums. Voters are to be asked if they want to change the description of a family to extend it beyond marriage. They'll also be asked if they want to remove the reference to a woman's role in the home in the Constitution and replace it with the concept of care provided by family members. Marine Minister Charlie McConalogue has confirmed almost €9 million for coastal infrastructure projects in Donegal. 3.8 million has been allocated to Rathmullen Pier. Burton Port and Port Salin will both receive almost 1.5 million. The 3 other projects are located at Bunbeg, Portaline and Inver. Archaeologists within the PSNI have confirmed ancient human remains carbon dated as old as 2 to 2,500 years have been discovered in Balahi. The archaeological unit within the PSNI's body recovery team made the discovery during evacuations. They were alerted to human bones on the surface of peatland in Balahi in October of last year. Police say on an initial examination they couldn't be sure if the remains were the result of a more recent death, but probes and excavations have proven that the body is more than 2,000 years old. Gardaí and Donegal are urging people to be on high alert when it comes to mobile scams. Last year saw a 30% increase nationally, while there's already been 114 reports of scams so far this year. While final figures aren't complete, the amount of money stolen from victims of scams in 2023 is projected to exceed €10 million. And in County Derry, a 30-year-old man is due in court after being charged in connection with reports of masked and armed men entering licensed premises in Dungiven on Friday evening last. The PSNI say investigations into the incidents are ongoing. They want to speak to anyone who has information on the whereabouts or movement of a black Peugeot partner van. More on these stories and all of today's news indeed available on our website, highlandradio.com. We're back with headlines again at 12 noon.
Thank you very much indeed, Donal, and we'll be back with more on the 9 till noon show after this break.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to noon show on Highland Radio. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
When it comes to electrical waste recycling, we're pretty good with the big items, like tumble dryers, fridge freezers and cookers. But what about your old broken power tools and gardening equipment? Those drills and electric lawnmowers end up in the shed, beside that damaged solar-powered garden gnome. The good news, you can recycle anything with a plug, battery or cable for free. And it couldn't be easier. For a list of drop-off points and participating retailers, just go to mywaste.ie. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
If the medical experts get it wrong, everything changes. From misdiagnosis or delayed diagnosis to surgical injury or even poor treatment, all have physical, emotional and financial consequences. We're here to help. So if your treatment didn't go according to plan, speak to our experienced medical negligence team at McElhenney and Associates. Find us online or call 074 917 5989. McElhenney and Associates Solicitors, Stranorlar. In contentious business, a solicitor may not calculate fees or other charges as a percentage or proportion of any award or settlement.
Easy Living Furniture's biggest ever winter sale has been extended for a limited time only. This is your last chance to avail of these amazing discounts. Absolutely everything reduced across sofa, dining, bedroom, mattress and accessories. It's the furniture you want at amazing winter sale prices. Winter sale extended for a limited time at Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park.
A new year and a promise to eat better. At Kelly Centra, you'll find everything you'll need to cook simple and delicious dinners with a great variety of protein choices and vegetarian options. All the ingredients to cook something tasty and a great range of healthy ready meals. Make the right choice this January at Kelly Centra, Mountaintop, Letterkenny. With 4 pre-season Dr. McKenna Cup games under their belt, the real action gets underway for the Donegal senior men this weekend. Jim McGuinness' side will host Cork on Sunday in Ballybuffet to kickstart their Division 2 league campaign. Join the Highland team for full match commentary from the 1:45 throw-in at McCool Park. Highland's coverage of Donegal in Division 2 of the National Football League is brought to you by Highland Motors in Letterkenny with a new Citroen C5 Aircross, an SUV with great comfort and styling, perfect for Donegal roads. For a test drive or to order your new 241, pop into Highland Motors.
Was that milk still in date? I was muted on that call, wasn't I? Am I after losing my car keys?
Most things we worry about never happen. And with Liberty Insurance, you can worry less about things that do. Especially when right now you can get a €40 retail voucher if you buy your car insurance with Liberty Online. So you're free to worry about literally anything else.
Did I send that to the entire group chat?
Or not worry at all. Less worry, more liberty. €40 voucher offer is valid for new private car policies only. Purchased before January 31st, 2024. Acceptance criteria, terms and conditions apply. Liberty Seguros, Compañía de Seguros y Reaseguros S.A. Trading as Liberty Insurance is authorized by the General Directorate of Insurance and Pensions Funds in Spain and is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland for conduct of business rules.
Okay, we're joined on the programme by Johanna, who stepped out of work to have a talk to us now. I do appreciate it, Johanna. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Right. So, Johanna, what is, your issue effectively is registering your vehicle. What's the background to the problem, though, Johanna?
Yeah, so I moved over to Donegal from the UK in September, and I've got a job in the civil service. I bought a vehicle 3 months before I moved, not knowing that if I'd had the vehicle for 6 months before I moved, I wouldn't have to go through the VRT process. So I got this vehicle, which I need because due to the housing crisis, I live quite remote from my job. I also, my role covers the whole of Donegal, so I need this vehicle. And I've been trying since October to get the thing registered. And every time I go back to the VRT place, they tell me that I have to go and get engineers' reports. And I've spent nearly €2,000 doing everything that they've asked me to do. And they just got back to me this week saying I need yet another engineer's report because it's a different classification of vehicle than it says on the logbook. And I'm just at the end of my tether. I've been trying to get this vehicle insured and taxed so that I can use it legally on the roads, but they just seem to be doing everything they can to stop me from doing that.
Yeah, and so, you have spent more money trying to make this van compliant than it actually is worth, if the truth be told.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have a lot of money, so I couldn't be particularly picky about what vehicle I got. So I snapped this vehicle up when it came up for sale on, on private sale. So I couldn't be that choosy. I paid £4,000 for it. But with the customs as well, I've had to pay thousands for that, which was another saga in itself. And I just got to the point where the other day I went to the police station and I said, I need to report somebody for driving a vehicle, unregistered vehicle, illegally. What are you going to do about it? Because I've tried to be law-abiding. I've tried to do everything that they've asked, and they can't give me the logic behind it. They wouldn't tell me in advance how much it would cost. I've spent hours researching what I've got to do, what I'm going to have to pay.
Well, Johanna, someone else is bound to have gone through this. Okay, so you moved from what you've been saying to us. It sounds like you moved from Britain to the Republic of Ireland. You bought a van and you moved over to Ireland with that van. Now you have had the van only 3 months. Now,
before I'm moving here,
okay, and this is where you have to bring it in effectively, so you have to register it as a Republic of Ireland vehicle. So what are they saying that you need to do now to make it compliant so that you can transfer it to an Irish number plate, I suppose?
So initially, I had to try and prove to customs that it was manufactured in the UK, and they were refusing to accept it, although it's a Vauxhall, and Vauxhall were only made in the UK at the time. So that was a huge palaver. I ended up phoning somebody in Dublin Ferryport and saying, we've got to find a way around that, and then somebody was just having a good day and cleared it for me. Then I finally got to the VRT place, and initially they said to me that, and I can understand this, it's got a driver's seat and a passenger seat, and on the logbook it says it's got 3 seats, so it's got 2 passenger seats in the front cab. So they wanted an engineer's report to say that it was safe. They couldn't tell me where I could get an engineer from to do this, because this isn't something I'm familiar with. So luckily a mechanic that I've been fortunate enough to meet found somebody for me. I met them in the car park at work. It just feels so dodgy. I met them in the car park at work. They took pictures of the bolts on the seat. Charged me €200, wrote a report, did all the safety checks on it, said it's very well maintained, roadworthy, not a problem with it. I took those documents back to VRT as requested, only to be told that that's not good enough and I have to get another engineer's report because they're classing it as a camper van.
Right, this is not an articulated lorry here we're talking about. This is a van.
It's the Vauxhall Bavaro van, yeah.
Right. So,
ironically, it was an ex-police speeding camera van, so it spent a lot of its life sitting by the side of the road.
Yeah.
And then
Low
I took it to
mileage
the
anyway.
police
It's just
station.
sitting in the one place taking money
Low
off
mileage,
people.
well maintained. Well maintained.
So now there's so
They look
now
after their vehicles.
once you've clarified the front of it, the seats and all that kind of malarkey, now they're saying that it is it a camper van? Is it not a camper? What are they actually? Just remind us again. What is the sticking point now?
So before I got it, the people that had it before had partly converted it. There's a bed in it, and they had a camping stove in it. And in 2021 they registered it as an N1 vehicle, so
Right.
per the European directive. So that's what I thought it was. And then I come over here and they tell me that it's a motorhome, but when you look at their own specifications, it doesn't qualify as a motorhome. Because motorhomes and motorhomes get cheaper insurance and tax.
So could you
Whereas I'm
not
using this as an everyday vehicle?
Could you not go into Derry and reclassify that vehicle as not a camper van and then go back to them? I know it's a whole hassle, don't get me wrong, but I mean, you have access to the UK nearby, in inverted commas. You can't go into the office or whatever it might be there and get it right. Okay. Because
I live because I live here.
Oh, yes.
And they said that if it's an N1 van, it will cost me €200 VRT. But because if it's a camper van, it will cost me €900.
Which is significant.
Which I don't have. I've just relocated here.
Yeah. I get you. No, that's understandable. You don't have to explain. No, I get you. We don't know. Well, most of us don't have €700 extra lying around the place. So you actually got the advice to flog it, to sell it in England or UK.
Yeah, she said an option is export it back to the UK, sell it, come back and get an Irish vehicle. It's just, and then she said to me, well, because I'm going to have a problem getting it insured as well because it's a primary vehicle, not a leisure vehicle.
Yes.
And she said to me, well, it doesn't matter, just insure it as an N1 vehicle, which is under-insuring it. So I'm getting this random advice that just doesn't make any sense. And
So this is not as simple as you selling this car in the north, is it? No, it's already the process would have to be reversed. So you have this has already been transferred to some extent. Now it's a case of getting it through VRT and getting okay.
Yeah.
What did the guard say to you when you turned yourself in?
Oh, they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do with me. So the nice young man on the desk said he'd refer it to a travel cop who would get back to me, who hasn't yet. But I chased yesterday because when I come to work, I see these checkpoints on the roads every now and then where they're checking. When I see stories about vehicles getting seized, and I don't want to be breaking the law.
No, look, Johanna, it's clear that all you want to be is compliant. But what's happening is the system is working against you. So I'm just trying to fully establish the problems so that someone out there can listen. So you the problem is they can only presumably register it here like for like. So if this is an M1 vehicle in Britain and Northern Ireland, they would have to then presumably register it here in an equivalent category, presumably.
I've got no idea. I assume so because they're the EU classifications. But she said it's different in Ireland. But then on the VRT website it refers you to the EU directive. So I've been researching this for days and hours, and I've got no idea how it works. I don't know where they've got this €900 figure from. I can't talk to the person that's decided this.
Right. Okay. Listen, there's people do this all the time. Someone's bound to give us some advice. Johanna, I must ask, and my tongue is in my cheek, you were over in Britain for the Brexit vote. Please tell me you voted no. Because this is all because of Brexit.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, I mean, this isn't because of Brexit.
Well, I don't know. I think it maybe I think it's gotten worse, yeah. Okay, and I absolutely didn't vote for it, but I've heard, one way that I've bonded and got to know people in Donegal, because I didn't know anybody here, is chatting to local people about VRT, because it's not just me, and a lot of people don't know
the rules. So I was talking to a young lad who went to get my tyres checked in a local place, and he said to me that he just, for his first car, he got a little car. It wasn't very expensive, and he didn't know the rules. It was an export, and he ended up paying €10,000, and he said it was the worst decision he'd made because he didn't have that kind of money. And a lot of people are having similar issues. So it's not just me. And if you look on forums, when you Google it, there's lots of people that are trying to figure it out and don't know how it works.
Okay, Johanna, listen, leave it with us, because there's cases ongoing at the moment where Revenue applied their own rules in relation to import cars incorrectly. There's a complex area here, and it's one that's been covered over the years. But this isn't one instance in your instance. You just want a little bit of advice, a little bit of help as to how you can be fully complicit with the law as you want to be. Okay, Johanna, listen, I won't delay you from work any longer. I do appreciate you stepping out and chatting to us. Of course you can. Go ahead.
The first time I went to the VRT place and they told me to get an engineer's report on the seats, they didn't tell me to get a report on the rest of it.
Yeah.
And so it almost feels like it's intentionally obstructive. So I did what they asked. I've done everything that they asked. It's now 2024. I got here and they charge you if you don't get it done within the 30 days of arriving, but they make it impossible to do so. If they'd have told me in the first place what I needed to do, I'd have done it, but I just said to them I'm not doing anything else, because whatever I do, I go back and I just keep getting sent away again.
Yeah.
And I can't insure the vehicle because it's not registered.
Can you decamp it? Can you get the bed and all out the back of it?
Well, I could, but then I'd have to take it back to get it
reevaluated again,
inspected again.
Maybe you should just take it over as a camper van then. Just do it as a camper van. The difficulty is the insurance, because I don't use it as a leisure vehicle. I use it as a daily. It's my only vehicle. Okay, right. Okay.
And so getting that insured is really difficult.
Right. Okay. So hopefully now we've enough info there.
Conform.
We've enough info. Did the insurance company accept your no claims bonus out of interest?
I've not even been able to try that yet,
okay,
because
I get you.
I can't get insurance until I've registered it.
Jigs and reels,
because they want the Irish plates. Yeah.
What a nightmare.
Yeah, people have suggested that I move to Northern Ireland until I've got it registered and commute to work.
No, I don't think so. Yeah. No, I think that's an extreme. We'll have to come up with a solution between you moving country. Effectively, in terms of the situation we're in at the moment. Okay, Johanna, listen, thank you for that. Hopefully someone's picked enough out of that can come up with some sort of a solution. Slán, thank you. Johanna there. Great help. If you have any help, 086 60 25,000, 07491 25,000. By the way, lately we've seen a huge spike in interactions with the programme. We've always been really busy, genuinely. Don't just say that. Lots of programmes, maybe they do or don't, I don't know. But we have an amazing level of interaction with our listeners, because we're all part of the one family, and I hope we're all friends. But lately too, we're seeing more of you emailing in, which is, so you can go into things with a little bit more detail. And all of the emails are read, by the way, and we chase up everything as much as we can. But I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to keep us updated and let us know where we can help you and things like that. So very much appreciated. Let's do a nice one here. They're all nice, you know what I mean. Hi, producer of Greg's 9 till Noon show. I would like to send anonymous praise for the ED department at Letterkenny General Hospital, as it seems always to be negative comments. I arrived with my 82-year-old mother last night at around 8 p.m. after a very prompt service from NowDoc, who asked me did I require an ambulance. Luckily, I could drive and felt she was stable enough to go in my car. NowDoc sent a fax to inform ED that we were on the way, which was very helpful. On arrival, we were triaged very quickly by very friendly, attentive staff, then had an ECG done by the lovely Anna, who reassured us that although there would be a bit of a wait because there were ambulances backed up outside the door, we would be seen as soon as possible. We were fortunate to be given a seat/wheelchair inside the doors right at the main hub of the department. To say that every staff member was busy is such an understatement. No one realised this on the other side of the doors. We were kept informed where we were in priority, but unfortunately, as always happens to the ambulances, they're still coming in the back door, unknown to all on the seats inside the emergency department. Not once in the entire time we were there did we see one person stop for hardly even water. However, at approximately 12:45/1 a.m, the lovely nurse Anna and a male colleague passed through the whole ED inside and outside the doors with tea, toasts and sandwiches for everyone. I just want to show our appreciation for their hard work and going above and beyond. Not all heroes wear capes. If Greg could maybe just read this out for me, no problem. Happy to do so. And I hope it doesn't get lost in... I hope it doesn't get lost in the commentary that we do have from time to time as it relates to the hospital. Is the reason we would give so much time to it and platform issues is always with the staff in mind and to support the staff. Because as you say, when you're in the ED, sometimes you don't see what's going on behind the doors, and there are people going from X-ray to the resus to here, there and everywhere. They're flying around and they're really, really busy. And I know enough of the staff down there and have off-air contact with enough of them to realise that hopefully they see that we do appreciate everything they do in very difficult conditions. Obviously, some people are going to have negative experiences. I get that too. But that we're actually seeking more funding, more investment to support the brilliant work they do and to retain them there. And it's never a criticism, very rarely a criticism of staff. But it's lovely to have that texter text in and to emphasise all of that.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. The 9 till Noon Show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
At iMotors, our brand new Kia 241 range is ready to go for immediate delivery. As Donegal's home for Kia, with 7 years warranty and low finance rates from 1.9% on EV cars and 3.9% on the rest of the range. Check out our stylish and diverse range at imotors.ie. iMotors, your local Kia dealership.
The new online mortgage portal from PTSB will get you moving. Start your application, track your progress, and talk to us when you need us. Bringing the best of technology and our people together for a mortgage experience that works for you. Apply online at ptsb.ie. PTSB. Altogether more human.
Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Over 18s only. Security and insurance is required. Warning, if you do not keep up your repayments, you may lose your home. Warning, if you do not meet the repayment on your loan, your account will go into arrears. This may affect your credit rating, which may limit your ability to access credit, a hire purchase agreement, a consumer hire agreement, or a BNPL agreement in the future. Permanent TSB PLC trading as PTSB is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
On this week's Business Matters, after the 6 o'clock news on Sunday, my guest is Maura Toner, Food Coast Advisor at the local enterprise office in Donegal.
Business Matters, in association with the Faculty of Business at ATU Donegal. For a career in financial governance, consider the Level 9 MA in Governance and IT in Financial Services, starting in January. Contact the Exec Ed Coordinator on 9186206 or email donald.hannigan@atu.ie today.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
Now, the time is 11:24, so we received this email. I want to highlight an issue which I now believe is common practice in Donegal, and this is refusals by landlords' agents to return rental deposits when students are leaving rented accommodation. My daughter and friends had a 12-month arrangement in their rented property. They left the property as agreed in December, and my husband and I oversaw the cleaning out of the property and the removal of all rubbish, and the house was left in better condition than when they moved in. But the landlord refused to return their substantial deposit because he didn't get written notice that they were moving out, even though they had it in writing from the agent that they had to move out in December. When this was challenged, they were then told that there was cleaning issues, which is also untrue because I've got photographic evidence and videos of all the rooms which were properly cleaned when keys were returned. This is only taking advantage of students who comply with the rules and do everything by the book. Landlords are letting agents and letting agency fabricating reasons to retain the deposit. I'm obviously taking this matter down a legal route, but it's unfair and is giving all landlords a bad name and is a poor reflection on Donegal. And I'll be contacting Letterkenny University Hospital, National University of Galway, and ensuring their students don't use this landlord for the letting agent in the future. Thanks and regards. Okay, so We stuck that up on our socials, and Rachel's a former landlord and joins us on the programme now. Rachel, thanks so much for your time. I know you're very, very busy. So what is your reaction to that?
Hi, Greg. How are you?
I'm good, Rachel. What's your reaction to that listener's statement?
Yeah, I'm just speaking on behalf of the private landlord who just has one house, not the man with the multi-properties. I had a house in Sligo that I wound up selling in 2019. I had it for 10 years and I rented it out to students in the Glenclark region, which would be a well-known student area in Sligo. And anybody that knows me would know that that house was handed over to students in immaculate condition. And 9 times out of 10, every time I got the keys back in April or May when they were leaving, the house was just absolutely wrecked or in bad condition or just dirty. But personally, I never kept the deposits on the students because my take on it was that I just wanted them gone. I wanted them out of the house, off my doorstep. I was afraid that they could come back and damage the property because I'm not living in the house. I live up in Letterkenny, so it's a good drive for me to go up and down between Sligo. So that was my take on it. So I've read what the lady has wrote up, and I mean, I think it's terrible that the landlord has kept the deposit if they've gone in and cleaned the house better than what it was. I can honestly say that no parent of the students that I rented ever came in and cleaned the house. They would be there on the first day in September to get their kids settled, but there'd be no sign of those parents when I'd be getting the keys back in May when the house was upside down.
But in terms of this landlord, is it in their, for the amount of money what maybe we're talking, is it in their interest really to hold on to it, maybe have their reputation damaged? Maybe they are money grabbers, I don't know, but would you say that's the exception or the rule? Now, I know you were a private sort of single property landlord, but what would you hear on the grapevine about how landlords treated students?
Just to point out, I've been on the both sides. I've been the landlord and I've been the tenant. And I've had my deposits held back whenever I was younger too, on siblings of mine for it'd be the same issue, saying that the place wasn't clean and it wouldn't, it would be cleaner than whenever we would have gotten it, sort of a thing, But I can't really talk on behalf of anybody.
I get you.
I don't know the person. That wouldn't give back
more
the
generally,
deposit.
More generally, though, Rachel, I mean, obviously you exited it now because of all the hassle and electricity bills being skipped and all that kind of stuff. And also, too, it seems more so in the last couple of words that landlord has become a dirty word. You know what I mean? It's almost like an insult.
Yeah, it has. I think that we get a bad rep that, people have to remember, like the single house owner like me, I was up working full-time in Letterkenny. I'm paying rent to somebody else up in Letterkenny, a fantastic landlord that I had for 6 or 7 years. He was wonderful. But, if I could live in the house in Sligo, I would have. But it's just my job took me up to Letterkenny and I had to pay insurance. I had to work hard to buy the house, number one. I had to pay insurance in the house. I had to pay local property tax in the house. And I think people forget that. They think that, people are wealthy, that everybody that owns a house for rent is so rich and that we are just money grabbers. But, I'm just the average woman on the street, like the average man on the street. I'm just renting that house to pay the rent up in Letterkenny, basically. But the house was totally and absolutely abused 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, do you think, though, some landlords do sort of see, though, renting out as a way of paying down the mortgage for free or covering other bills that, they are, I mean, in a way, though, they do have people in the house paying down their mortgage to a great extent for them. So there is something in it for the landlord. I mean, maybe you don't take any profit out of it, but you are sort of writing down your debt by renting it out to other people. Not you, I mean you in a generic sense, yeah. Rachel.
I would say the long-term person that's renting the house, because mine was only short-term, so you're talking September to May. And sometimes the student might leave in December because they realise they don't like the course they're doing. So then I'd be stuck with a room then trying to fill that in January, basically. But maybe the person renting it long-term, but that was the problem for me, that it was short-term. And, I couldn't put ESB bills into students' names because at the time it was €250 to change the name. And no student was going to pay $250, and you'd be changing that twice a year. So you'd be putting in their name in September and then kind of changing it back to my name then in May. So that's how, I was kind of...
And I suppose too, finally, Rachel, I won't hold you, but I mean, it's different maybe in the case of our emailer, but generally speaking, maybe parents, even though sometimes the children are 18, 19 or 20, they're sending them into someone else's property and they're not respecting it as perhaps they should. Maybe we as parents and guardians and what have you, caregivers, need to be educating our young people to be a bit more respectful of other people's property.
Definitely, yeah. Like I said, the parents would be there on the 1st of September with the child, showing them into the property. Bye-bye, see you next weekend. And there'd be no sign of them and those kids are moving out in April or May.
Okay, Rachel. Thanks very much for your time. I do appreciate it. That's Rachel there.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Farmer exodus in the West. For more in your Irish Farmers Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
Find out how many farmers are leaving the sector each year. See how your factory ranks in our exclusive Beef Price League. €65 million paid in turf cutting compensation. Over 100,000 fewer straw bales this year. Rising cost of sending BVD tissue tags. New schemes to pay farmers for biodiversity. Plus, all you need to know about land tax reliefs.
All inside the Irish Farmers Journal, on sale now.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out ShaneConleyCars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonher Road, Donegal Town.
So he was like messaging me all night and then he just ghosted me.
No way.
Yeah. He was like, "You're so hot, I want to come over."
Okay.
And I was like, "Cool." And he was like, "I'm on my way, driving over right now."
And then?
Nothing.
Phone use while driving can be deadly. Your phone, it won't kill you to put it away. From the Road Safety Authority, visit rsa.ie.
Make more meals for less with Dunnes Stores, where you'll save in the aisle with ingredients for delicious overnight oats. That's porridge oats, 1.5 kilo, just €1.19. With skimmed milk, just €1.05. And freshly frozen mixed berries, only €2. All from the Dunnes Stores range. Make 4 servings for just €1.06 each. Download the app now and get a 5 off 25 welcome voucher. Dunnes Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used to next grocery shop of €25 or more.
If you're making some changes in your home, visit the big January sale now on in the newly extended McGinley's Furniture in Letterkenny. There's big reductions in every department with great savings on suites, beds, mattresses, living room and dining room furniture. Also on occasional furniture, including lamps, pictures and mirrors. That's all in the big January sale now on at McGinley's Furniture on the Joe Boner Link Road in Letterkenny. See mcginleysfurniture.com.
Okie doke. Now, some of your comments coming in as it relates to Johanna. Tell that lady to look up Camper Vibe on Facebook and YouTube. They're bringing a self-build camper from the UK to Ireland. They might have advice. I don't know if she wants to bring a camper in. Tell that woman to go around the back street garages. They can put her in the right direction. Not much they don't know. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or otherwise. Just to say, we were in the A&E last week, sat for 10 hours with a young child. It was terrible. Had to stand for 2 hours. There was no room anywhere. Children were offered nothing, not even a drink. Hi, Greg. I have a house coming up for rent shortly, but was told last night that I have to be a registered landlord before 2021 before I can rent to a Micah victim. Can any of your listeners clarify this? Much appreciated. Okay, so this is a person with a house coming up for rent. They are inclined to rent it to someone who's affected by defective concrete, but they have to be registered as a landlord before 2021 before they can. Now, is that based on the scheme, the scheme paying rent? Sure, that is a serious issue if that is the case there. Listening to the lady re-registering the car, haven't done it recently. Safe Home Ireland are a great resource and of advice. Safe Home Ireland. Okay, thank you for that. Greg, of course, the Irish government is not going to do anything for the people of Gaza because they're just puppets for the Americans and British warmongers. I would say that they have been perhaps, out of step a little bit. But anyway, Dr. Kieran O'Farry is joining us on the programme now, local GP. Thanks, Kieran, for your time. I do really appreciate it, and good morning to you.
Morning, Greg. Good morning to your listeners.
Again, we're going to talk about winter surges, and I get that, but we get appeals even in the summer, in August now, from the hospital to stay away unless absolutely necessary. But generally speaking, this is a tough time for most acute hospitals around the country.
Yes, it is. And, you know, you've seen a lot of media coverage over the last few days of difficulties in emergency departments and hospitals throughout the country. We expect January to be a challenging month with surges in influenza and COVID and RSV and other respiratory illnesses. So we do know that it is particularly challenging at the moment. But I suppose beyond that, as you said, we know that there are ongoing challenges with access to care in the hospitals and emergency departments. And these kind of warnings and pleas to stay away are far from unique to January.
And looking at the figures, it's clear that the problem is not just simply, you know, more staff in ED, quick triage and getting people. You know, we've got 21 on trolleys. There's 25 in the surge capacity, but there are 24 in hospital beds as delayed discharges, i.e., and correct me if I'm wrong, Kieran, you know, they are well enough now to leave the acute hospital setting, but for a number of reasons, they can't be discharged.
Yes, those figures on delayed discharges are generally people who are fit to go, but may need other care in other places. So they may be waiting for home care packages or a bed in a community hospital. And we know that there are difficulties accessing those kind of care. So in my area here in East Donegal, there are difficulties with home care packages and getting access to those in a timely fashion. And we know there's difficulties with access to community beds. For us as GPs, we have a severe lack of access to acute beds in the community. We know things like Lifford Community Hospital is out of action at the moment with that lack of beds. So access to beds in the community is a challenge, and then that has a knock-on effect within the hospital as well.
Particularly sort of focusing on East Donegal, St. Joseph's being used as sort of like the default step-down care, if I'm phrasing that correctly. Has that complicated it for the likes of yourself in East Donegal?
I suppose the fact that we've lost the capacity in Lifford Hospital has definitely made it more challenging, and so there are less community beds available in the area because of that. So there's difficulty accessing those beds because there are less of them. So I suppose for us as GPs, we have been advocating for more access to community beds. There are patients that we sometimes have to send to the emergency department for admission because there is no other alternative to them where they would be better suited to a bed in a community hospital, but unfortunately that capacity isn't there.
And the issues at the hospital and GPs' concerns are well established at this point, and I'm not sure we've seen any progress in that regard just as of yet. But just in relation to home care packages, step-down care, supports for families or in the home, which are the home care packages, of course, that I'm referencing, what needs to be done? Because I presume more of that capacity is needed. In other words, that capacity grows faster than it would shrink. So this is going in one direction. There's always going to be an increase in demand, presumably. Do you have an insight on what we need to be doing or how we could resolve that issue?
I don't have the specifics on what the challenges are, but as far as I know, the challenges was recruiting and having enough staff available to provide those home care packages. And so, you know, if you don't have enough staff to provide them, obviously that's going to delay people getting access to them. We know that our population is getting older, that there are more chronic diseases out there. And so this shift towards community care is going to have to put more focus on the availability of home care packages. So we need more people in those jobs. You know, those working in them would argue that the terms and conditions make them not desirable and difficult for people to continue in them. And so anybody who has a home care package will tell you how valuable they find it and how useful it is and how much it does keep people in their homes. But I think the issue there is again capacity and availability of staff to provide those services.
Yeah, it is worrying. Do you believe that we are through a peak yet in terms of respiratory issues, be it RSV, COVID or the flu for that matter?
Well, I suppose if we look at the Health Protection Surveillance Centre figures, it looks like we are past the peak. So cases of COVID, influenza and RSV have all fallen over the last 2 to 3 weeks. They're still at significantly high levels, particularly influenza. But they are falling, and so you would hope that that does mean that we're beyond the peak, but still, I suppose, a significant knock-on effect in terms of presentations over the next number of weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And the traditional respite then perhaps is not there because the hospital is running over capacity. It almost seems all year round at this stage. So the fundamental problems we're talking about now need addressing, because throughout the year it's not just a winter thing anymore.
No, and when you talk about the 25 patients today in surge capacity, that means they're in places like day services or other services that then can't operate because they're full. So that again has a knock-on effect. So it's a vicious circle, and there is huge healthcare demand. Just looking at the figures in my own surgery here today, we've over 200 appointments scheduled in the surgery here today. A mixture of acute care, routine care and chronic care. So, the demand is always huge throughout the year, and it's always difficult to manage. And, the system is doing its best, but there isn't enough capacity out there to deal with the demand that's there.
Yeah, okay. Really interesting, actually, to get that sort of figure from one GP practice, albeit a big one, but still, that's a lot of people. Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. I do appreciate your time. Take care of yourself. That's Dr. Kieran O'Farry there, talking about hospital crowding. Just to recap those figures, his own practice there, over 200 appointments today alone. 21 people on trolleys at Letterkenny University Hospital. There's 25 in surge capacities in overflow areas, in having an impact then in daycare stuff. It's having an impact on other elements of the hospital. And there's 24 people sitting down there in the hospital who are able to go home effectively. Sorry, I must phrase that correctly. They're fit to leave the acute hospital setting, but they're delayed for numerous reasons. Maybe family can't receive them at the moment, which is something that was mentioned before. Home care packages, places in community hospitals. So that's 24 people and 24 mums, dads, sons, daughters, aunts, uncles, by multiple, all concerned and worried about them, hoping that their loved one gets better as soon as is possible, gets into a space where they can continue the recovery as soon as is possible.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
New this week in Home Store and More. All bathroom towels are all half price. But better hurry, because when all the half price bathroom towels are gone, they're gone. Also, all recycling kitchen bins and all artificial plants are still all half price. But when all the half price recycling kitchen bins and all the half price artificial plants are gone, they're definitely gone. Drop by your local Home Store and More. Visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. New store now open in Frascati Centre, Blackrock. Home Store and More. A happy home.
Despite low temperatures and high energy costs, it's important everyone stays warm and well through the colder months. It's also important to understand that saving energy where possible saves money and helps reduce the impact on our climate. Simple steps can make a big difference, like turning down the thermostat by 1 degree, limiting the use of high energy appliances like tumble dryers, or ensuring we don't heat rooms that aren't in use. Government is playing its part too, making a range of supports available to help ease the burden on families across the country. For support and advice, visit gov.ie/reduce your use. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Muff. Lousy bush. Straggle willy. Legwy fottrin, Duty's bottom, Stripsy, Willy Rogue Island, Pullingtown, Terman Feckin, Killy Willy. Gowl. Over the years, not all our town names have translated beautifully from Irish to English, but they're still beautiful places to explore, especially in a Skoda. Skoda. Let's explore.
Your local Skoda dealer is DMG Motors, Clar Road, Donegal Town. Call 074 9721 396 or visit dmgmotors.ie.
Kirsteach hervisi cheadún is fólamóide agus tamána líne, lena náritar anúchan ústátú málartú agus áhallathair. Tá sé éasca agus is féidir a dhéanamh gan stró. Tuair cuairtear an seirbhís náisiúnta cheadún is tamána líne in jobhag NDLS.RSA.ie. Mai go bhaidí devna a tastal. Teachtacht an údarás am havaltacht Wodi.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. Building a new home? Choose Grant's A++ rated Airona air-to-water heat pump and Uflex underfloor heating. Visit grant.ie.
Okay, Mal, dull and breezy today. Outbreaks of rain and drizzle. Low cloud and mist brightening up in a few parts this afternoon as the rain and drizzle becomes patchier. Temperatures today 11 to 13 degrees, so relatively mild. In a moderate to fresh and gusty south to southwest winds. Now, a spell of squally heavy rain accompanied by strong and gusty winds will spread from the west this evening and early tonight. So it's not going to be a pleasant start to the night, those squally showers and wind. To the front of the Tyrconnell Tribune now, and we are going to talk to Deputy Sinn Féin Deputy Padraig McLaughlin about Milford School. And I suppose before getting to the... Good morning to you, Padraig.
Good morning, Greg.
Before getting to your meeting with the Minister, maybe you could outline to us sort of really what you already know and what came from the public meeting with parents in Milford. Read the concerns about the school.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Yeah, no, I had myself and the Sinn Féin representative Maria Doherty had organised a public meeting in Milford Town. We would do these across the area, and at the meeting in Milford Town just there in mid-December, parents of children at Scolwera there in Milford, the National School, came to the meeting and outlined their very serious concerns around the school, and on the back of that I had offered to go to the school the next morning, and at very short notice, and I really appreciated it, the principal of the school and indeed the board of management chairman Farver Gorman and a number of the parents took me around the school. And as you can imagine, I've been a public rep for a long time, Greg. I've been to a lot of schools and I've seen a lot of issues, but I really was genuinely shocked.
What jumped out at you?
Well, it's just the totally cramped amenities. It was built in the late 1950s for a totally different time. None of the classrooms would be up to the standard of Department of Education guidelines. The corridors, the toilets are totally inappropriate. There's no proper sewerage system in the toilets. The play amenities are just
What about pick up and drop off? Is that a...
Yeah, there's also big road safety issues there, Greg, because of the location. I mean, you're going up into a number of secondary schools, all bottlenecked along with the national school. You have a very busy road running alongside one of the main arteries in the Milford area. Yeah. So, I mean, for the Donegal County Council and indeed the Garda superintendents, everybody has said this is a very questionable location. So in every level you look at, Greg, now the one thing I do want to point out was, and it was totally obvious to me, like the dedication of the principal, of the teachers, I mean, all the parents, I mean, the level of education is absolutely exceptional at the school.
Well, listen,
but the facilities aren't.
That's a sign of its success, 220 pupils and growing. Now, we've talked about schools in the past on this programme, and one of the issues often is maybe the current site's not fit for redevelopment. I would imagine that's the case here, or there's not an alternative. And we will get on to your minister with your meeting with the minister in a moment, but that is one problem that doesn't necessarily exist here, because a greenfield site is there effectively, isn't it? What's the status of that site?
Yeah, I mean, they've looked at it. It'll be much more cost effective to build a new school to modern standards, to give the children the best education possible. And they have in the community identified a location within the control points of the town. And they have been interacting with the landowner. And indeed, some of the local councillors have looked at the issue of planning. So I think everything can be done, but time is of the essence. And indeed, the message I got from the principal and from the board of management and the parents was that right now, if they had hope, if they knew that a new school was on the way, that it was on the capital programme, going through the process, they could knuckle down. But right now it's the lack of hope that things are going to change, that they have patchwork sort of things going on around site.
Well, then let's get to that meeting with the Minister. Did Minister Foley give any hope?
Yeah, well, I had submitted a parliamentary question, Greg, and the first response, usually drafted by department officials, I wasn't happy with it. I submitted a follow-up because I'm very conscious that Minister Foley had visited the school, has seen for herself in recent times how bad the conditions are at the school, and she personally understands that. So I thought, right, I'm going to go and I put another parliamentary question, but I thought I'm going to have to meet her face to face. So I met her yesterday, and we discussed the matter. I reminded her, like, she'd been to the school. I took her through all the problems at the school. She asked me, is there an alternative site? And I said, yes, in the community, I understand, but time would be of the essence. I also let her know that the school board of management have organised a briefing for local public representatives on Friday the 9th of February. And, it would be very useful if we had an update by then. And, I'd asked her to engage with her local colleagues, government representatives, councillors and TDs in the county, just to verify all of the points I'm making, because this will be a team effort. So I found her receptive, and she didn't make any commitments, but she said she would discuss this with her colleagues in the county and try to give us an update.
So how does this work? I mean, does the school submit an application for a new build? Is that how this normally works? Have they done that? Does the Department of Education invite proposals? Like from here going forward, how does one get the ball rolling on a completely new build of a school?
Yeah, it seems that the department, I suppose the government too, moved the goalposts a number of years ago in terms of new schools. This is a school capital buildings program, it's called, and they were focusing on the big cities, the kind of commuter belts, those areas with big population, to the disadvantage of the likes of Donegal and similar counties. And instead, what we're getting is sort of prefabs and add-ons and patch-up jobs. And I think that's, you have to fight them on this, and you have to challenge them. Now, it's to the credit of the school that they manage and the local public representatives that they got Minister Foley to visit the school. It's really important that the minister sees it with her own eyes, so she can be in no doubt as to what the situation is there. So what we need to do now is, say that we can't accept, the patch up work. We need to have a date. We need it on the capital programme, and we need to give hope that there's going to be in the near future a school that befits the teachers. I mean, I from talking to the parents in the community and from seeing for myself the parents that day and the principal, I'm just going to say this: the principal did work beyond the call of duty and her family. There was a basement below the school, storage area converted into a classroom. They did that of their own time. Like, the level of commitment is incredible, but you can't take people for granted. They need hope that it's going to get better, and I think they deserve that.
All right, well, let's keep our fingers crossed. Thank you very much for that. That's Sinn Féin Deputy Padraig McLaughlin on the new school there, and it's if you're affected by that, i.e. you work there, maybe the principal's listening, or you're a parent there, you can lend your voice to it ahead of that meeting, to that campaign. You can lend your voice to it ahead of that meeting, which is scheduled for the 9th of February, I believe we were told there. Please, Greg, tell Greg you no longer get a medical card at 70. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realise that. I rented a room in a house with shared bills. The bills kept getting higher. When I asked for the actual paper proof of the bills, surprise, surprise, they were not in fact that amount. The letting agent made an excuse that he had so many it was a simple mistake. Then I discovered that 2 of the rooms rented via the owner were in fact €100 cheaper than the 2 via the letting agent. Be very wary of agents. Okay, it doesn't sound ideal by any stretch of the imagination. Good morning, Greg. The situation here in Donegal is that Irish Water are responsible for the hydrants, but the fire hydrant is a key piece of equipment in a firefighter's arsenal, and in my opinion, all fire stations should be responsible for the servicing annually of all hydrants in their respective areas. This would also help at building familiarity for the firefighters of the location of fire hydrants. Okay, that's not a bad idea, I suppose. Leona, who was on with us earlier on, she's wrong about both. She's wrong about print. Both print and digital are big. Look at all the worldwide tabloids still in print as well as digital. It's not, that wasn't coming from Leona. We had the head of one of the biggest news groups that cover Britain and Ireland. They have the Irish Independent, the Sunday Independent, and a few other papers. It was he that said, look, there's no future for papers. That's not me saying it. He said, and he runs a paper. He says there's no future for papers at the moment. It's the revenue 70% paper, sold papers, and 30% digital. He says there'll be no daily papers coming from their paper group in 2030, 2033. He's not really quite sure of the date. No, unequivocal. He didn't say, oh, well, we'll try. The bottom line is there's not going to be any papers published by them on a daily basis. Also, they're trying to get rid of the older journalists. There's 50 voluntary redundancies. People can get stuck in their ways. The future's digital. That's the bottom line. And if you don't see that, well then, maybe that's one of the 50 that they're trying to get shot of in the Irish Independent. Because, of course, you do certain things a certain way for a certain amount of time. It can be hard to switch to the inevitable. I'm sure it's right across the board. Everyone's having to do it in the media. It's not exclusive to newspapers. So it's not the owner's point of view. It's actually the owner of one of the biggest circulating newspapers. But then you look at the Farmers Journal, and they knock it out of the park every single week. They're selling, over 300,000 copies. And it's thick, and it's quality, and it's stories, and it's interviews, and it's progressing stories, it's creating stories. Maybe that's the future, I don't know. It's not an area I work in or have any understanding of. I just know from the people that run the big papers, that is what they've been saying. Hey, have a wonderful Thursday, will you? We are going to disembark the 9 till noon show train now, and getting on board is your pilot, your train driver, John Preston, around the Northwest throughout the weekend. We're back tomorrow at 9 with our Friday panel. If you want to suggest a topic for conversation, feel free to text us 086 60 25,000, and so much more throughout the course of Friday's 9 till noon show. Have a wonderful day today, though. So for me, Greg Hughes, Carrie Lenore, who researched and produced the show, and Sharon Wilkes, who's working away, Wilkins. No, I had it right in my head. I'm sorry, Shannon. Shannon, do you want to say it in my ear, Caroline? No, Sharon. Second name. Wilkin, that's what I said. Okay, Sharon Wilkin. Have a great day.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available.